trial license. Then we provisioned a couple of users and group. We added users to the group. We assigned license at the group level. That's what we did in Azure AD. We also created a couple of virtual machines, virtual network, storage accounts, and then we discussed about Azure Monitor. So that's what we did. And I told you yesterday that Microsoft is changing the way it uses the monitoring Azure Monitor and Log Analytics service. Microsoft is integrating log analytics capability into Azure Monitor, and Microsoft is suggesting all the customers to migrate log analytics agent, uh, or what it says that the current monitoring configuration, which includes deployment of log analytics agents on virtual machines and servers, be it in Azure or outside of Azure, we must migrate those agents from log analytics agent to Azure Monitor agent, because Microsoft will stop supporting log analytics agent from August 24 next year. So that's what Microsoft is saying, and enterprises must start working towards this migration as soon as possible. And we discussed that we will do this training through Azure Monitor agent, because that's the new stream that we need to understand. So that's what we discussed. And we also discussed that Azure Monitor is a comprehensive monitoring solution in Microsoft Azure today, because it has the capability to monitor both infrastructure, which includes virtual machines, storage accounts. It has the capability to monitor the applications with application insights capability. It has the capability to monitor containers. So Azure Monitor is going to be the one-stop monitoring solution from Microsoft in the months to come. So we must understand Azure Monitor, all its capability, and how it integrates with any security monitoring solution, and how it can stream data to the security monitoring solution is what we need to understand. So that's what we discussed. Let me show you an image. Let me show you the high-level architecture of Azure Monitor. So this is the high-level architecture of Azure Monitor. So on this architecture, you can see that Azure Monitor requires data sources. Now, we don't call them log sources because it's not a logging service, it's a monitoring service. It is getting logging capability inbuilt as we speak. But right now, Azure Monitor is more of a monitoring service. Monitoring service basically means proactive monitoring. And for proactive monitoring, you need near real-time data coming from the sources so that it can monitor the data and it can provide you alerts, it can provide you insights, it can create alerts and incidents and events. So Azure Monitor needs data sources, and those data sources are coming from applications and workloads. Those could be custom applications or IS workloads, which means something, workloads which are configured in Microsoft Azure, which are configured, uh, in various Microsoft Azure subscriptions. Then it also, needs, I would say, data sources also comprises of infrastructure. You can see they could be containers, operating system, Azure platform, which includes Azure resources. So it is not only monitoring virtual machines, it is actually monitoring most of the Azure resources, most of the Azure services. So Azure Monitor also have monitoring capabilities for storage accounts. So if I navigate to storage accounts that I have created yesterday, and if I click on any storage account, in storage account service also, you will see an option for monitoring. Now this monitoring capability, whatever you see here, is coming from Azure Monitor. And you also see on the overview tab, a monitoring tab. And in the monitoring tab, you can see that Azure Monitor is basically able to monitor the storage accounts also, and it can tell you what is my total egress, total ingress, which means total total amount of traffic which is going out, coming in terms of data which is getting referenced, which is getting downloaded or getting uploaded, average latency, request breakdown. So it gives you all of that information. Now this is the basic monitoring that it is providing. If you want to get detailed information, you can click on see all monitoring, and you can also see appropriate data. For example, I want to see used capacity of my storage account. I'm saying how much data am I putting into my storage account, or what will be the approximate charges that I can expect from Microsoft coming at the end of the month. So I can select that metric also, for example, used capacity. Now it will show me the used capacity of the storage accounts. It shows that the used capacity is around 876 KB, not even 1 MB, because I only have in the storage account, I only have one or two files. So you can see here in the storage account, I only have these two files, 585 KB and 174 KB. So that's exactly what it is showing. And all of this information is coming from Azure Monitor. Azure Monitor is enabling this monitoring capability, which is part of most of the services. So if I go to virtual network, say I will only be showing you the services that we provisioned. So example, let's see this virtual network. Now in this virtual network blade also, you see monitoring option. And in monitoring option, you will see some monitoring capabilities. So if you click on matrices, you will see monitoring. Matrices are the data that it can populate for a near real-time data. So you can see failed ping to, these are all the matrices for with respect to the virtual network. Similarly, for compute services that we have, so we provisioned a couple of VMs yesterday. I would request you to turn on all the VMs now, because we will need to enable logging for these VMs today. So we are done with the infrastructure provisioning. Now we will configure the logging for all the infrastructure that we did provision yesterday, so that we can stream those logs into Sentinel. So let's turn on all the virtual machines that we provisioned yesterday. So I'm turning on the virtual machines. Now, if I click on any of the virtual machine, I see the monitoring tab. Here I'll get the monitoring information, the CPU utilization, VM availability, disk utilization, in fact, memory utilization, it will also show. Right now, since the virtual machine is turned off, you will not see much data. But when the virtual machine comes back on, you will see the matrices, which is real-time performance data of the virtual machine. So all of this information is basically enabled by Azure Monitor. Now that is where it says Azure resources, which includes most of the Azure services, Azure subscription, Azure tenant, and custom sources also. Custom sources means anything which is outside of Azure or within Azure that it has the capability to monitor. So these are the legends. It basically means in Azure. This cloud basically means other cloud, and this means on premises. So you can see it can also monitor custom sources here on premises. So if you have virtual machines and physical servers on premises, Azure Monitor can also monitor them. You just need to deploy Azure Monitor Agent or MMA agent on those virtual machines and server, and then it will be able to monitor. So these are the data sources for Azure Monitor. Then comes how it does the collection, how it collects the data. So it collects the data using SDKs, using Azure Monitor Agent, using data collection rules, using diagnostic settings, using zero config, using API. So these are the various methods through which it collects the data. Give me a moment. Data, performance data that describes the current status of a system. So for example, CPU utilization or memory utilization of a virtual machine. Now that utilization will come into some numerical value, let's say 70%, 80%, 90%, and it describes the current status of the system. that the system is at this utilization. It may go down, probably it may experience performance issues soon, or it may completely be choked or frozen. So that's what matrices is. It basically provides current aspect of a system, and it's a numerical value that it provides, and it's a real-time data, near real-time data that it provides. So that's what matrices are. Then it provides log also. Now, logs are coming from the event logs. If it is a Windows system, if it is Linux, then it has logging capability also. So logs are coming from the system events, and they are recorded events, which means this is something that has already happened in the past, maybe a minute ago, maybe an hour ago, but this is something that has already happened. And Azure Monitor will store structured and unstructured log data, all types of data in the Azure Monitor logs. So you have Azure Monitor logs capability here that you see. It will store logs here. This is Azure Monitor logs. So it will store logs here in this, in this capability. In the backend, it is using a storage where all the logs are getting stored. And this storage is nothing but the log analytics workspace. So it is storing the logs to log analytics. It is storing the logs in log analytics workspace, which you can use to query the logs for the analysis. You can query the logs later on. Okay, then other than this, it provides you traces. Now, what traces are? Traces basically allows you to see the path of a request as it travels through different services and components. So basically means traces are primarily meant for networking. So when it captures the network logs, it basically captures the path for the IP packets, that how it is traveling, where it is coming from, where it is going to, all of that information it captures. Now, trace data is also stored into the workspace, same log analytics workspace, and then comes the changes. So it also monitors the changes, which is what is changing in its what is changing in a specific application or service, and those changes, it will basically help you to identify uh, and anything that happens in the system. So that capability, I'm saying this is a new capability in Azure Monitor, which is equivalent to AWS config service, wherein it will record the change. I'm saying it will record the configuration of a service, and then whenever there is a change in the configuration, it will record that change and store it into a table that you can query, and you will find the previous and current status of the service with respect to the configuration change. So this is a new capability that is getting added into the Azure Monitor. As I said, it's something which is it's very dynamic. Cloud is very dynamic, so they keep on adding new and new capabilities. So this is how it basically collates. Then what are you doing with this information that it is collating? So what are you doing with matrices, logs, and traces and changes? So you can then, this information can then be used to understand the consumption of various services, that what is the resource consumption. This information can then be used to visualize and create workbooks and dashboards. You can in fact stream this information to Power BI or Grafana, and you can get an intelligent analysis with respect to pie charts and what all capabilities Power BI bring on the table. The matrices, logs, traces, and changes that it collects, you can basically use services like Matrix Explorer to see that matrix, to see the matrix for the last couple of days, for the last couple of hours, all of that you can collect. So for example, if I want to see the matrix for one of my virtual machine, which is 2019, which I provisioned yesterday, and I want to see the CPU utilization of this virtual machine, let's say since yesterday, in the last 24 hours, then over here, it says local time last 24 hours. Here I can select the time range. Let's say I want to see it for last 1 hour. So I can select the time range here. I can select the time granularity, that what is the sampling period for this, for this matrix, for this data that I want to see. Let's say I want to see it in sampling period of 1 minute, and I will apply. It will show me the last 1 hour of CPU utilization. Now this dotted line that you see basically means that the virtual machine was not available. Virtual machine only came available at this time because this is exactly where 8:17 I just turned on this virtual machine 5 minutes ago. So after that, you start to see the log, you start to see the CPU utilization, and you can see as soon as the machine was started, the utilization was almost nil, and now slowly and gradually the utilization is moving up. So that's my utilization. Now this is the matrix explorer. This is where I can explore I can explore a specific matrix, a real-time numerical value of a system that describes the state of the system at a specific interval of time. So that's what you are doing using Matrix Explorer. Similarly, log analytics will basically tell you, I'm saying here you will see the logs, the recorded events of that system. And here you can run KQL queries and you can see whether a specific virtual machine is sending heartbeat, whether a specific whether how has been the the performance of a virtual machine over a period of time. So you can basically get the logs. And this change analysis is part of change here. So as I said, this is a new service. So this will give you basically what has changed in the configuration of a system over a period of time. So that's what you can do the analysis. So you can do insights, visualize, analyze, and you can also respond. How do you respond? For that, you need to create alerts and you need to add actions to the alert. And accordingly, you can put put actions as per logic app webhook that will take certain actions when an activity happens, or you can use AI ops or auto scale. So you can respond to those matrices, to those changes based on alert and actions. So that's what Azure Monitor provides. And then Azure Monitor also has the capability to manage SCOM managed instances, because SCOM is the on-premises monitoring solution from Microsoft. Azure Monitor is the cloud native monitoring solution from Microsoft. They both use the same architecture in the backend. They both use an agent, which you call SCOM agent, Azure Monitor agent, or Microsoft Monitoring Agent. So it is MMA, Microsoft Monitoring Agent, that both Azure Monitor and SCOM uses in the backend. So they use the same architecture. That is why you can also onboard SCOM managed virtual machine, system center operations managed virtual machine into the Azure Monitor. So that's what it says. So this is how SCOM works. SCOM has a agent. That agent is communicating to its management server, which has a database where all the information is stored. And to manage the SCOM infrastructure, you have SCOM console, using which you can see all of it. And then the last is the integration part. So Azure Monitor can also integrate with Event Hub, Storage, Azure Managed Partners, all of these services. So basically, using Event Hub, you can stream the logs or matrices to a third-party solution. You can store the diagnostic logs or logs of Azure Monitor or the data of Azure Monitor into Azure Storage also. So over here, if I go to Azure Monitor, you can see here it says diagnostic logs. So all the logs of Azure Monitor, I'm saying you can select the service and you can send the diagnostic logs to storage account also. It has integration with storage account service also. You can see storage account here. So here it will show you all the storage accounts. So it has the integration with storage account also. It can manage partners, basically means third-party solutions which are available. Azure Monitor can also work with third-party solution or integrates with third-party solution. You can also use logic apps. Logic apps you can use when you create an action group. You can select a logic app or a logic app webhook to basically push information to logic app and then take an appropriate action. You can use Azure Functions, Azure DevOps, GitHub. So it has immense possibility for integration. And this architecture is not, exhaustive, which means that it will continue to change. This is what it looks like today. Probably tomorrow, you may have some of these options deprecated, not available anymore, and some additional capabilities getting added from Microsoft. So it's dynamic. So this is what Azure Monitor is all about. Now, this is what we are going to do. We are going to ingest everything into Azure Monitor. or the workspace that Azure Monitor uses to store the data that it will receive in terms of logs, in terms of matrices, in terms of traces, in terms of changes. All of that we will use Azure Monitor. So let's do this, guys. Before we do that, let me know if you have any question, any challenge that you faced while building and provisioning the lab environment. We can discuss that and we can resolve it, and then we'll move on to this. So today we will start with enabling logging for all data sources or services provisioned in the previous session. That's what we are going to do today. All right. So first thing first, in order to enable logging, as I said, Azure Monitor also uses Log Analytics Workspace in the backend. Log Analytics Workspace is nothing but a storage repository, a log storage repository, that log storage repository service from Microsoft Azure. So what we need to do, the first thing that we need to do is to create a Log Analytics Workspace. So let's go ahead and provision a Log Analytics Workspace. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So let's provision a Log Analytics Workspace. In the search, type Log Analytics, and you will see the option that says Log Analytics Workspace under Services. It will take you to the Log Analytics Workspace blade, wherein you will see if you have any existing Log Analytics Workspace, otherwise it will be blank. So let's click on Create. Now see, Microsoft is making sure that it brings Azure Monitor everywhere. Even if you are creating Log Analytics Workspace, it says, this is what I'm seeing it today only. It says a Log Analytics Workspace is the basic management unit of Azure Monitor Log. So it is still telling you that, you know what, it is Azure Monitor at the end of the day. So this is how Microsoft is trying to deprecate Log Analytics Workspace. So Log Analytics Workspace is the basic management unit of Azure Monitor Logs. There are specific considerations you should take while creating a Log Analytics Workspace. Learn more. If I click here, it will take me to Azure Monitor documentation. It says design a Log Analytics Workspace architecture. So this is basically for the Log Analytics Workspace architecture design considerations, so that we will do any which ways today. Let's first create the Log Analytics Workspace. So it says with Azure Monitor Logs. Now see, we are creating Log Analytics Workspace, but it keeps saying Azure Monitor because it wants us to understand that it is going to be Azure Monitor and Log Analytics service will get deprecated. So with Azure Monitor Logs, you can easily store. Now it should say with add Log Analytics Workspace, you can easily store, but now it has replaced it with Azure Monitor Logs. So with Azure Monitor Logs, you can easily store, retain, and query data collected from your monitor resources in Azure and other environment for valuable insights. A Log Analytics Workspace is the logical storage unit where your log data is collected and stored. So as I said, it's a storage repository service from Microsoft Azure where the log data is collected and stored, and it remains stored based on the retention that you have configured, and you will be charged based on the amount of data that it stores. So that's what Log Analytics Service is. It's a pure play logging log repository service from Azure, which is now getting integrated with, which is now getting renamed as Azure Monitor Logs very soon. Okay. So let's select your workspace. And so let's select your resource group and then select the name of the log analytics workspace. So I can say, I'm saying this workspace that you are going to create, we will be using this workspace to integrate with Sentinel also. So let's do the designing while we provision the resource. So the name of the workspace, since we are going to use this workspace to store logs from various sources, Azure plus non-Azure, outside of Azure, and this workspace will be integrated with Sentinel service. So name of the workspace should reflect that. So whatever name you think is appropriate, you can give this name to the workspace. We typically have production log analytics workspace sending data to Sentinel. You don't, sometimes you don't want to unnecessarily monitor your non-production data. So we can say this is my production log analytics workspace. Okay. Then comes the region. Right now, this is US. I'll talk about in the consideration that how we can select the region. So this is US. That's it. You just need to provide the name and select the resource group and subscription and region. That's all you need to provide when you create a log analytics workspace. Nothing more than that, because it's nothing but a storage repository. So it doesn't require any other information. So tags you can put owner, myself, purpose, Microsoft Sentinel change, review plus create. Okay, so this passed, validation passed, I can now hit create. Now I already have a log analytics workspace with the name Sentinel log analytics workspace, which I created to validate the changes which are happening in log analytics workspace in conjunction with Azure Monitor, so that we will not waste time in the training here and we will directly know what needs to be done. So I already did that exercise, last night and the previous night and the night before. So I just wanted to show you how do we create a workspace, but I will not create this workspace. I will leave it here and you will create this workspace. So you all create a workspace for yourself that we will use to ingest logs from various sources, and then we will associate that workspace with the Sentinel service. All right. So let's go ahead and create that workspace. Probably I'll create and then delete it. Now, while it is creating the workspace, please remember a couple of things, that the pricing of the workspace, because this is where you will have your $100 getting exhausted. I'm saying it will charge from the credit that you have. So virtual machines, you already know, we'll need to keep the virtual machines turned off whenever we are not using them. That way we will save the charges on the compute. The storage and public IP charges will continue to get billed, but they are not that significant. When it comes to log analytics workspace, you will be charged based on the amount of data that you ingest and store in the log analytics workspace over a period of 30 days, and you will be charged accordingly. So that's how you get charged for log analytics workspace. Now, once the workspace is created, you will navigate to the workspace blade. Is this created now, guys? Log analytics workspace with everyone. Are you guys done with provisioning of log analytics workspace? Okay, great. So let's move on. Now we will navigate to the log analytics workspace. So here I navigate to my log analytics workspace. And the very first thing that we will need to do before we start using this workspace is to configure some basic, do some basic configuration with respect to the usage and cost. Because This is the right time to do it. This is the right time to decide. See, storage is, as compared to on-premises, storage is cheaper in cloud. But this is my workspace. This is where I will be receiving logs from various data sources, from various services. Logs, a log size could be in KB, but when there are hundreds thousand logs, it becomes in GB also. So I need to be very careful with respect to a couple of things so that I don't get surprised at the end of the month from Microsoft. And that is what the usage and estimated cost. So let's click on under settings. You see an option that says usage and estimated cost. Let's click on usage and estimated cost, and let's configure a couple of things today itself. And this is the this is for my engineering team. This is the best practice that after you are done provisioning of a log analytics workspace, go and configure the usage and estimated cost then and there before you even start ingesting data into it. So first usage detail, first the data retention. So I will need to configure the data retention in log analytics workspace. Now by default, the retention is for 30 days or 31 days. It says 31 days of retention is included with your pricing plan. Longer retention will not incur additional charges. So what is my pricing plan right now? My pricing plan is pay as you go. So that's my pricing plan that I have. Now this pricing plan, pay as you go pricing plan, in this pricing plan, I will be paying as per the usage that I have. So what it basically says that the 31 days of retention is included in the pricing plan, but 31 days is not sufficient. You only want to store logs for 30 days? No, we would like to store logs for a longer duration. And the maximum duration that we get in log analytics workspace is 2 years, 730 days. That's the maximum that we can get. If we want to go beyond 2 years, then we will need to use a service which is known as Azure Data Explorer. And in this service, I can store the logs or I can retain the logs. The retention of this service is 100 years. So some organizations who needs to store logs beyond 2 years because of some historical or auditing perspective, let's say banking, in banking domain, you need to store logs for a longer duration. In India, banks needs to store the transaction data belonging to their customers for a period of 7 years. 7 years is the mandate by the RBI. Similarly, in every country, there is a governing body for financial institutions, and that governing body decides some policies for retention. So accordingly, the log should also be retained. So if you want to store logs beyond 2 years, it's Azure Data Explorer that you can use, which provides you 100 years of retention, and you can integrate Azure Data Explorer with Log Analytics Workspace. It's very simple integration, and the Log Analytics Workspace will start to flow logs in Azure Data Explorer once it reaches to its end. So for example, if you have configured retention for, let's say, for 60 days in Log Analytics Workspace, after 60 days, the log will stream into Azure Data Explorer through various methodologies, through various options which are available. So what we typically do here, I will say what I have seen in production environments or what I recommend to my customers, that depending on the industry vertical that you belong to, the standards and compliances that you need to adhere to, decide on the retention strategy. So the maximum could be 2 years here, and then with the integration of Data Explorer, you can have it for up to 100 years. So that's what I suggest. So I typically suggest that 6 months is the sufficient time that you need to store logs, because even your backup data you store for 6 months. So 6 months is the balance time that I always find. So you can put retention if this is a production environment that you are building. if you're designing a production environment for log analytics Workspace or for Sentinel, I would suggest you to go with at least 180 days. A minimum of 180 days, you should keep the logs here. And then you should ingest the logs into the Azure Data Explorer. And Azure Data Explorer also has KQL inbuilt, which means that once the log goes into Azure Data Explorer, you can still analyze the logs. It's just that you will not be able to integrate those logs with Sentinel because Sentinel doesn't work with Azure Data Explorer. It only works with Log Analytics Workspace. So you can do an offline analysis of the logs in the backend also whenever you need certain information, but the Sentinel capability will not be available with Data Explorer. So 6 months is the duration that I would suggest you to go with. So we'll keep 6 months. Okay. Then comes the pricing tier. Since I have already integrated this workspace with Sentinel service, I will not get the pricing tier information here because now it is using the pricing tier of Sentinel. It says Log Analytics Workspace has Microsoft Sentinel enabled. The pricing tier for this workspace can be changed from Sentinel pricing page. So right now my pricing tier is pay as you go. So if I want to see the pricing tier, if I want to change the pricing tier, I would rather go to Sentinel, that something that you don't have right now. Here's the pricing tier. So right now you can see my pricing tier is pay as you go. The retention that I have selected was 180 days, which I've just selected. This is my current pricing tier, which is pay as you go. And these are the additional pricing tier that I get. So from pay as you go is basically means the amount of data that I ingest on daily basis, or the total amount of data that I have ingested in a month, I will be charged accordingly. Now here you also see Azure Monitor written. So it says this workspace is a simplified pricing tier experience. The pricing tier shown below includes the total cost for Azure Monitor log analytics data ingestion and Microsoft Sentinel analysis of your analytics log in this workspace. So the price that you see here, right now the current pricing is pay as you go, and the price that you see here is for the other plans which I have. For example, if I go with 100 GB per day log ingestion plan, that I have around 70-80 GB of logs getting ingested per day, then the nearest is 100 GB. I can go with 100 GB and I will get 31% discount over pay as you go pricing, which is around 23,246 Indian national rupees INR per day. So that's what I will get on per day basis. For 200 GB, here's the plan. So you can see the plan, and whenever you click on a plan, it will give you the details of that plan also, that how it is working in all. And you will see that if it is 100 GB per day commitment that you can give, this is the per day cost for 31 days. So they assume that a month has 31 days. This is the cost that will come. Defender will not have any cost. Overage, I would say this is the overage. If you go, then no cost. And then log data ingestion beyond 90 days, this is the cost. Because after 90 days, for 90 days, if you retain the logs beyond 90 days, then this will be the cost. But since you have already selected the retention as 6 months, then you will not be charged for it. You will be charged for the amount of data which is there. So this is how it basically does. Now, this includes the Azure Log Analytics pricing for ingesting data. So this is the Sentinel plan that you have. Now, if you look at your respective log analytics pricing tier for 100 GB per day, I'm sure it will be a bit less. Can somebody tell me what you're seeing for 100 GB per day in log analytics? Okay, all right, somebody sent me. So the pricing tier that you see is showing as 15,392.76 per day for 100 GB of log data ingestion in Log Analytics Workspace. And coupled with Sentinel service, it is coming as 23,000, which is around 40 to 45% of increase. So you can see the cost of Sentinel service. Now, right now, we are not paying any cost for Sentinel also because We all are using sponsorship pass, and we will also get a free trial of Sentinel for 30 days when we integrate this workspace with Sentinel. But this is what you will need to know, because as an engineering function or as a consultant or as an architect, pricing is something that you need to be very proficient with, because your customer would not expect something else to come in and inform them about the pricing. They would expect the architect and consultant to do everything, to ensure everything is adequate, optimized. So while you are designing the solution for your customer, this is the most critical thing that you need to keep in mind, that you need to inform your customer and give them an approximate, approximate tentative cost on month basis to your customer, that this will be the operational cost of Sentinel from the pricing perspective. I'm saying not the entire operational cost, because it would also involve, L1, L2, L3 resources, manpower cost also. But this is the technology cost. That this is your technology cost of using Sentinel. That if we are ingesting 100 GB of data per day in Sentinel, then we will be paying approximately this amount, which is 700,000 rupees, or 7 lakh rupees, approximately 7.2 lakh rupees per month you will be paying for Sentinel service. If the customer says, yes, this is within the budget, we already had similar budget for Splunk, QRadar, Alert Logic, ArcSight, Securonics, we are okay with it, then go ahead. Otherwise, do the optimization then and there. Now, will you be choosing the 100 GB per day ingestion plan for day one? No, this is not the right approach. You will start with pay as you go plan, the pay as you go billing, and you will keep that billing for a month. And when you feel that you are 100% onboarded in Sentinel, you have onboarded all the log sources into Sentinel from on-premises, from cloud, from here and there, and your Sentinel service is fully functional now. From that day, for a week, you will, using log analytics query, I will share the query with you, which will fetch the per day log ingestion data from Workspace. You will need to see per day log ingestion data and take an average of 7 days. Whatever is the average of that 7 days, you will need to identify a plan which is near to that average. So if the average of that 7 days is 120 GB per day log ingestion, then you will be taking the plan. If it is 150 plus GB, go with $200, 200 GB per day. If it is 120 GB, go with 100 GB. Now you will say it is 120 GB, we are going with 100 GB. Then what will happen to the remaining 20 GB of data? The remaining 20 GB of data will be billed as per pay as you go pricing, and 100 GB of data will be billed as per the plan, commitment plan. But if the per day ingestion, the average ingestion per day comes out 160 GB, then go with 200. Why? Because if you compare the 60 GB per day ingestion from using pay-as-you-go plan and 100 GB per day using commitment tier, you will find that the sum of it will be more than what you will pay when you have 200 GB. So that is why you should always go with the 200 GB, so that right now you are ingesting 160 GB and you are paying for 200 GB. But in future, when the log volume increases, you will continue to pay for the same. Okay, I forgot. All right, so this is where I'm explaining you the concept, the design concept. Now, people who are from engineering team, I will not write it. I'm saying I will not do it again. This is where we are doing the pricing discussion. So you may want to make a note, or you may want to refer to the session recording. This is how the pricing discussion goes. This is how the suggestion goes to the customer based on the log volume ingestion. So we will first start with pay as you go. We'll keep it pay as you go till the time we are fully functional in Sentinel, and it will not happen on 0 day. It will take a couple of months. You will start to ingest logs, let's say from today, and you will keep on adding more and more data centers. That will be your project phase, that will be your ingestion phase. So in the ingestion phase, if it happens for 2 months, depending on size, scale, and complexity of the customer, how big that customer is, then you will need to keep using pay-as-you-go plan. Keep using pay-as-you-go plan till the time you go fully functional. The day you hand it over to the customer and say that today we are handing over this project to you because we are done with the entire log sources ingestion. Now this will go into production. This will go into operations. From that day onwards, for next 7 days, keep fetching the per day log ingestion and find out the average of 7 days. That will tell you the per day log ingestion, and then come back to this plan Sentinel under Sentinel dashboard. At the under configuration, you will see an option at the bottom, settings, and here you will see the plan. So this includes the log analytics plan as well. This is where you will need to choose the plan, not at the log analytics level, because the moment you integrate your log analytics workspace with Sentinel, you will not see the plan there. You will see the plan here. So you will need to select the plan according to the per day data ingestion. If it is less than 100 GB, go with 100 GB. If it is more than 100 GB till 150 GB or 140 GB, go with 100 GB. If it is more than 150 GB, go with 200 GB, because that's where you will get the pricing benefits. And I'm giving you this summary because I've done this calculation a number of times for a small customer, for a medium customer, for a large enterprise also. This I've done a number of times. So I'm just sharing my summary with you or my experience with you, that always go with this logic. And that way you will be able to optimize the cost of the solution, because that is also your job as an engineering team. It is not the operations team that will take care of it. It is what you will need to take care of it. And it's an ongoing effort. So it is not that you selected the selected the ingestion plan today and then you forget about it. No, you will need to do this exercise once in a month. Every month, do this exercise to see what has been the change in log ingestion data. Has it increased over a period of time or has it decreased? Because you're also doing log volume optimization. So maybe log volume optimization will have a significant, decrease in log ingestion volume. And if that happens, then you will need to change the plan. Now, whenever you change the plan, it will apply on pro rata basis, which means if I change the plan today and I'm on 20th of July, then from 1st of July till 20th of July, this moment, I'm so the moment when I change the plan, I will be charged as per the previous plan. And from 20th of July, this moment, which is 8:57 a.m., from this moment onwards, I will be charged for the next pricing tier that I have chosen. So there is no harm in doing it whenever you feel it is right. You don't need to wait till the end of the month and do it on the first of the month. Microsoft is charging you on pro rata basis. Is everyone with me on this? Because this is very critical for engineering team. Your entire efforts. I still remember doing this for one of the customer. That customer is an Indian multinational, and we migrated from Securonics to Sentinel. And since I had some team members who were senior consultants, I had good faith in their capability, and I was not, managing more, and I was focusing on other projects. And then all of a sudden, this escalation email came from the CEO of the company, who had CFO in CC, in carbon copy, about the cost, about the monthly billing. There was drastic change in billing. 300% the billing was more than the previous month. And when we looked into the billing, it was nothing but Sentinel. It was the log analytics workspace or Sentinel service that caused it. And why it happened? Because my senior consultant, they did not take this seriously. They did not take the pricing seriously. They were more focused into the architecture design of the service, and they designed it very efficiently. They were able to identify the simplest measure to ingest data for each device that they received as a log source. And they did it very efficiently. Customer was all gaga about it. Customer was all praising. We got multiple appreciation email from the customer about the team, that this team is very efficient. This team knows what, knows the business. This team has done this job well before the time. So we got a lot of appreciation. But a month later, we got that escalation email. Client would never ever expect that it is their fault. And it was not their fault either in that case. It was our fault that we did not do this exercise efficiently. So once you get the bill, you get the bill. You can only raise a support request with Microsoft and request them for reversal. It is the discretion of Microsoft. Microsoft never reversed it. Microsoft looked into its backend and said that the pricing is, I'm say it is genuine. I'm say it is logical. We build you basis on the consumption, and the consumption is logical. There is no anomaly in the consumption. You have this much of data getting ingested into Sentinel, into log analytics. So we are billing you. So they ended up paying that amount, which spoiled the entire experience. So this must not happen, that as an engineering team, your job is not to only focus on the technology portion. The technology portion can be taken care of in the long run also, during the operational aspect as well. Nobody would bother about it. You need to manage those C-level executives. And those C-level executives are not more concerned. I'm saying if you compare, they are more concerned about cost rather technology. If there are some incidents, if your project gets delayed by a month or 15 days, it is okay to them if you have justification. But if the cost has gone up, even by a couple of $1,000 over and above the estimated project cost or the estimated budget, which they had initially agreed for, they will not take it for granted. So cost is very important when it comes to cloud. And it is not for Sentinel, it is for all the services or all the projects that you do in cloud. You need to be very careful about the cost. So that's the one, one input or guidance for my engineering team. Okay, so this is how we will set the pricing tier. Let's go back to our log analytics workspace. Now, once you are done with the pricing tier, once you've selected a pricing tier, you also need to look at the daily cap. This is how you can also control it. Now, how do you control it? You can put a daily cap also. So your pricing tier is 100 GB data ingestion per day, which is, so you are ingesting 100 GB. Now you can also put a cap here. You can say that so that you will not get overbilled by Microsoft. You can put a cap here, daily volume cap here, that my daily volume cap is 100 GB, which means log analytics workspace will not accept any data over and above 100 GB per day into this workspace. So that way you will never ever get surprises from Microsoft in terms of billing. But this has a drawback. The drawback is, what if for a specific day there is more data, there is 101 GB of data. What will happen to that 1 GB of data? That 1 GB of data will be discarded. That will not be coming into this workspace, because data comes in near real time. It is not that the agent, log analytics agent or Azure Monitor agent, has its internal memory in which it will store the data and keep it till the time it resumes connection with its workspace, and then it will ingest the data. Yes, it is the case, but that cache is only 2 MB. So it can only keep 2 MB of data with itself. But we are talking about a GB extra data over and above 100 GB. So if that ever happens, that is the only drawback that you will have. However, businesses accept this risk. They say we accept it. Why do they accept this risk? There is a reason for it. The reason is this works on daily basis. Whatever time zone you have configured it, I'm saying whatever time zone you're using your portal, you're using your portal, it will use that same time zone. Right now you can see it has the daily limit will be set at 19 hours. This is 7 in the evening UTC. So what will happen that till 7 o'clock, whatever data till 7 o'clock, it will accept 100 GB of data. After that, it will not accept it. But if there is 90 GB of data that has come till 7 o'clock, then it will continue to accept the additional 10 GB of data because it has not reached to its volume cap. So this volume cap is very important, and you can apply volume cap in an environment where the ingestion data is not uniform, where you have not done or where you have not uh, completed the analysis of your daily ingestion data, or you are still in the process of optimizing the log volume data. You're still in the process of figuring out, filtering out what data you need in Sentinel, what data you don't need in Sentinel. Till that time, you can put this ingestion. So typically what we do when we start the project, the day we start to ingest the data, we know that Microsoft will start to charge us. So we'll put a cap here, daily volume cap, and we will remove this cap only when the service goes in production, so that we can control the cost till the time that project is going on, till the time that project is not complete. So always use this limit during the project execution phase, as well as after the project go in operations, you can also use this limit. Yes, Yogesh, I'll share it when we get into the log analytics space. I'll share it. Okay. So this is how we use the daily cap. So I am putting the daily cap as 1 GB per day. I can also turn it off. Right now, this is 100 GB per day that I put. So I can put it like 1 GB per day. This was 1 GB per day. That's why the OK button is not available. But if I keep it 2 GB, it will be available. So I already have it configured at 1 GB per day. OK, so data retention, you understood the data retention concept, daily cap concept, and this comes inside. Inside basically gives you the same information that how has this log analytics workspace receiving data, what has been the average data ingestion per day. Now this is a great option. This was not available until 6 months, until January this year. This is only available from January. So this is coming from this information is basically coming from Azure Monitor. Now you can see this information here also. So you can directly go to Azure, I'm saying you can go to Log Analytics Workspace, and here under Insights, under Monitoring, you see Insights. You can click on Insights and you will see the same information here also. So this is how you see this information. Now this basically tells you the matrices, near real-time values. So you can see that last 24 hours by ingestion volume is 0.01, which is not even 100 GB. So that's my last 24 hours. I can see it for last 90 days. As I told you, you will always have last 90 days of data. So this is my last 90 days of data. I can see there is one host which is connected right now, but in a production environment, you will have this number in thousands. Retention is 180 days, which I've just configured, you have seen. And daily cap, I put it at 1 GB. It also shows the usage against daily cap. So earlier, what we would used to do, Yogesh, this answers your question basically. So earlier, what we would used to do, we would run KQL query. I'll share the KQL query also. So we would run KQL query to find this data, that what is my per day log ingestion? What is my per day log ingestion against the plan, against the per day cap? So you can see my per day cap is 1 GB and daily usage right now it says 0 because I'm hardly getting any data. So this is the information. Here you see more detailed information about Azure. Now I have enabled some log sources. So it shows me those log sources, that my Azure activity is this. This is the size of Azure activity. Around 12 MB of Azure activity data is coming. These are the events. This is the heartbeat. So these are various log sources or log data which is coming into this workspace. This is ingestion over time MB. This is the time ingestion based on the time frame. This is the ingestion anomalies. You can see this says down. It is down. Why the trend is down? Because I was not doing anything. Because yesterday, I'm saying because my virtual machines are turned off, my log sources are not sending data, I'm not configured it. That's what the trend is down. You can see here. Now it has multiple options. Usage, you can see, health, you can see, agents, you can see. Here it shows you all the agents. So we have Azure Monitor agent. You can see I've installed Azure Monitor agents. This direct agent basically means log analytics agent. I will not be using log analytics anymore in this training. Why? Because it may not be applicable in near future. So I'm not going to use it. Okay. Then it says gateway agent. I'll talk about when do we need a gateway. Yogesh, you have any question?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, tell.
Can you go to that overview page again, please?
Sure.
So this ingestion volume is for one day or for it is total
This is for last
for
90. You will see the time range on the top. Based on the time range that you have put, you will see the ingestion volume,
okay, okay,
right? The per day ingestion volume you will see here, daily usage versus.
okay,
So per day ingestion volume is this daily usage versus capping, which is at 1 GB right now. And here you will see based on the times. So if I put last 24 hours, this is the default setting. You will see the per day ingestion volume like this in the last 24 hours. Now, when I say last 24 hours, it includes as per your clock right now. So this is the ingestion volume. Make sense?
yes, yes, got it. Thank you.
So as I said, this workbook was not available earlier. This was only made available from January this year, and then it had a lot of shortcomings, lot of anomalies in the beginning. So when we were running the query and when we were comparing the data, we would see a huge difference in the data. But today it is the same. I'm saying I have already configured this as a workbook for a couple of my customers, and their operations team can quickly fetch the data from here, and they can send that data to the management, or they can publish this in a dashboard to the management so that they remain aware of what is happening. So this is a great source of information. Now we were here.
So I have one more question. I have one more question. So
Sure.
I'm checking in my screen the Sentinel which we are using. So
Hmm.
in the ingestion count is I'm getting two. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, please do that.
Okay, so I have checked. Uh, so this is our daily ingestion 83 GB.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, and if I go down here, I'm getting this up and down both. Okay. So
Hmm.
on 9,
So
and
why
there is a huge difference.
why this is happening? This is happening because up and down basically means the lowest and highest ingestion. This is the trend that it basically shows. And you will show it based on the table. So look at the table. It says the office activity. It seems that you have M365 connector. So these are the
Yes.
tables. Then Azure AD you can see. So it is showing you the up and down, the minimum and maximum for that. So for Office 365, the I'd say on 7/29, it was 61 GB of data ingested. And on today's date, it is 7 GB. But you only have got a couple of hours today. I'm saying you have a lot, you have almost 15, 16 hours left for today's to complete. That's what it is showing. That's
Okay.
the time
Okay.
with it. And it is showing for all the tables that you have. Tables means all the connectors that you have created, because for each log source, it will create a table. Not exactly for each log source. For major log sources or for all connectors, it will create tables, and it is showing you as per the tables. So security event, you can see those are coming from a Defender. Those are coming from Azure Activity Logs. You can see yesterday it was like 30 GB of ingestion, and today so far it is 4 GB. Now, when you see this number, probably in the, when you see this number tomorrow, you will see tomorrow's date and today's date. That's how it happens.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a great solution which is available from Azure Monitor now. So I'm say since I am in direct touch with the program manager for Sentinel for log analytics workspace. Uh, I have written them this a number of times that we would need to get away from KQL, and we need a UI for majority of the things, because KQL requires you to either record the KQL queries on a on some repository, and then you will run it all the time, and then you will get the data. But these days technology is all about simplifying things. Is all about automation. So can we also get, because I was also working on a separate product, which is Azure Virtual Desktop. And Azure Virtual Desktop, they have released similar insights for Azure Virtual Desktop. So a lot of insights that we would collect manually was now part of that was now part of that workbook that they released. So taking reference from that workbook, in November last year, I basically connected with the product team and I said, can we do something similar for log analytics also, so that we get the inside data? Because log analytics is the service that is being actively used with Sentinel, and Sentinel is where majority of the billing happens, and you are making and you're focusing on it at the same time also, because that is becoming a cash cow for you, for Microsoft. So can we do something similar? And that's where they, recorded the request, and they said that we will look into this. And then I got the update, before this article was published on 31st, I got the update on 29th itself, that we have made this capability available in the log analytics workspace under insights. However, the capability is in preview, and it will continue to remain in preview until we are 100% sure of the authenticity and accuracy of the data, and then we will make it GA. So probably in May this year, it came into GA, and before it came into GA, it would continue to show as in preview. But today it is in GA, which means you can actually trust this information. And if you find any anomaly in this information, you can directly raise a support request with Microsoft. They will support you. They will answer your queries. So it's a great tool, Yogesh, that you may want to use in operations to basically get the quick details of how my log analytics workspace consumption is happening, what all data sources are connected. And agents is a great information here, because this gives you a lot of details. I'm saying you are saving a lot of your time in running the query. I have a couple of queries that I would use to get the agent details, to get the heartbeat details, to get the a lot of details. And I would share that queries with the operations team and say that please run these queries once in a while whenever you need the information, right? Now you don't need to do all of that today because of this insight. You don't need to do that, because now you can see all your agents, you can see all the agent state also. State basically shows your healthy agent. So if you say 100 here and if you say 80 here, which means 20 agents are not sending data. So you will quickly know that there are 20 agents which are not sending data, and then you can run the query, or you don't need to run the query anymore, because you can click on unhealthy, and here you will see all the unhealthy agents real quick which are not sending data, and you can quickly navigate to that source and find out maybe the agent service is down, maybe the agent has no connectivity to its workspace, maybe there are connectivity issues, there is some firewall which is blocking the port. So I would say this gives you a quick insight, and you can quickly get into the action. So your lead time to resolve an incident is reduced now, because you've got some data that you can rely on and you can take action accordingly. So that's what you can do. It's a great piece of information that you get here. So right now I only have one agent on the VM, which you see here, and you can also see the agent category. It is Azure Monitor agent. I'm not using log analytics anymore, and I can see the agent heartbeat also. Now you can see if you look into the heartbeat, you can see here there is a dotted line here. This dotted line represents that the heartbeat was not there. And why the heartbeat was not there? Because the VM was turned off. I only turned this VM on this morning. So as soon as I turned on the VM, now the heartbeat is coming once again. So this is how you see all the information here. Okay, here you see direct agents, which are log analytics agents, gateway agents. So gateway we basically use in a situation. Yogesh, are we using gateways in DXC for any customer?
Yes, we are using.
Okay, great. So would you like to inform the participants in what scenarios are we using gateway services or gateways?
Uh, yes.
Yeah.
So we are using gateway for the servers where there is no internet connectivity. So for the agent to communicate to the log analytic workspace, some URLs are required. 4 URLs are required. So sometimes the server don't have the connectivity, direct connectivity to those URLs. So in those cases, we use a gateway agent which act as a mediator to communicate to the log analytic workspace.
Oh, great. Thank you, Yogesh. So guys, what happens? We have restricted environments also, like manufacturing units, manufacturing customers at manufacturing plant. They have restricted environment. Nowadays, they are also using technology. And if manufacturing plant is compromised, if those devices are compromised, it may result in destruction. And this has happened with one of the manufacturing unit at Mahindra and Mahindra. This happened. Their manufacturing plant, I'm saying because of some hacking, their plant got compromised, the network got compromised, and this hacker took control of one of the robot because nowadays manufacturing happens through robots. It's all robots who are building everything. You can watch a video on YouTube about Mahindra Scorpio and manufacturing, and you will see that within 2 minutes, that 2 minutes of video will show that how they are able to manufacture 300 plus SUVs in a day on that Chakan plant in Pune. So 300 SUVs they are manufacturing in one day. Imagine a big SUV is getting manufactured and 300 of them are getting manufactured at one plant. How come that is possible? It is through the robots. So they have machines, robots. Robots are doing everything. Human are just observing those robots. They are just observing them, watching them. They're not doing anything. Now everything is being done by robots. So that network got compromised, and through which one of the robot got compromised, and that robot started malfunctioning, and that robot somehow interrupted the other robot, which resulted in a fire. So the fire broke out into the plant, and they lost, I would say, it affected the manufacturing for 3 days, because they took 3 days to bring that plant back to operations, and they incurred a loss of millions of dollars because of it. And that was a small, that was a very small bot which was there in the network. That bot corrupted the robot. So to avoid it, what businesses now do, what now this happens in manufacturing, oil and gas, aerospace, aviation. These are the industry where it happens. They have restricted network. They would not allow their servers to connect to internet. They would not allow any incoming and outgoing traffic from their servers. So if there is no incoming and outgoing traffic on the servers, how will I install the agent? I will need access. See, I can push the agent from the portal. I can install the agent through PowerShell for remote PowerShell command. But since there is no connectivity to the internet, I cannot install the agent. So what we do, we manually install the agent. I would say we'll work with the team at the client side, those who have access to those restricted environment servers which remain in an isolated network, and they will install the agent, and we will configure a gateway server in that network, which will receive all the data. So the agent will send all the log data to the gateway server, and gateway server will have outbound to internet on 443 those specific URL whitelisted, who will then send the data to log analytics workspace. So it is like putting a bridge in between when on the other side you don't have visibility. So when the other side doesn't have clear line of sight, clear visibility, then you put a bridge in between, and that bridge is nothing but the gateway. So here you see gateway agents. Then similarly, SCOM agents. SCOM agents, as I said, SCOM is the on-premises version of Azure Monitor. So even You can, if you have servers getting monitored in SCOM, you can also have those servers reflected in Azure Monitor at no additional cost. So SCOM management servers, SCOM agents, when you integrate SCOM with Azure Monitor and that agent state. So it has a couple of information change log. You can also see configuration changes in the workspace. So right now there is no configuration changes. Now all of these tabs, now you, as I said, they keep on adding more and more capabilities. So this query audit tab, they recently added, it was not there. So whenever they add new capability, it may not be operational from day one. It may not provide you accurate data from day one, but anything, for example, this usage tab, this provides accurate data. Health tab, this provides accurate data. See, health tab now it is showing you the health tab also. So it says no workspace issue detected, no operational errors are coming. So whenever the workspace is not working, whenever you're not getting the data and you feel that agents are working right, you should always come to this. I would say you should always come to this place. Here you see the health status of your workspace. So it says available, no workspace issues detected. This is the first thing that you need to do. Because if your workspace is experiencing an issue in the backend from, at the Microsoft backend, if there are issues, if workspace service is experiencing issues, then things will not work for sure. So you should be looking for this information. So this is a great tool, Log Analytics Workspace Insights provided by Monitor, which comes to your rescue. This helps both engineering as well as operations team to get quick details of the information. Is everyone with me on this? Okay. So our workspace is created. We have configured for the workspace, we have configured the data retention. We have configured the daily cap. We have seen how insights work for the workspace. Then comes the cost optimization usage details. So let's look at the usage detail first. Now, usage detail is nothing, but it will take you to this page, and this is where you will get the query. So here's the query that you can see. Usage analysis in Azure Monitor, Log Analytics Workspace Insight, log queries, log analytics. So this is the data volume by solution. These are the queries. Billable data by solution over the last month. You can see it by the solution. You can see billable data volume by type. You can see billable data volume by solution and type over the month. So these are the queries, you guys, that you can use basically, and you can run these queries. Make sense, Yogesh?
Yes, yes.
So these are the queries. I also, I would have given you the same query actually. So here you see the queries, which will help you to identify what is my per day log ingestion, what is my per day log ingestion based on a specific solution that I have enabled. Solution here would mean connector. Based on a specific connector or based on a specific table, you can get all the information here. So this is your usage details. So you can just go to that article by clicking on it and you can run a specific query into your workspace and you will get the data. Okay. Then comes cost optimization. Now, cost optimization also takes you to this documentation wherein it will give you best practices, that what is my best practice for designing Azure Monitor logs. Now it says Azure Monitor logs, but consider it as Log Analytics Workspace, that what is my best practices for design. So this is what you will see. So these are the best practices. We are going to talk about these best practices. So let's see my best practices, design best practices. So first of all, it says that we have a concept of well-architected framework in Azure, and that well-architected framework is based on some pillars, and those pillars are reliability, security, cost optimization, operational excellency, and performance efficiency. So this is for the architects. Now, when you build an architecture for an application in Azure, you must consider the well-architected framework and the guidance which is given in each pillar. So when you go to well-architected framework page, you will get the detailed information about the guidance, that what should I do for reliability. I mean, say if I want to build a reliable application, then what is my reliability design principle? So you get detailed information that I need to design for business requirement, failure, and whatnot. So basically, well-architected framework is a great tool in the hands of architects who will be able to design a cost-effective, I'd say, who will be able to design a solution which is reliable, which is secure, which is optimized for cost, which provides operational excellence, and which is performance efficient. So that's well-architected framework. Well-architected framework will be available in all the clouds. Is available in Azure, AWS, and GCP. So that's well-architected framework. Now, when it comes to the cost consumption, when it comes to the cost optimization in Azure Monitor, don't read it Azure Monitor for a moment. Keep reading Log Analytics Workspace for a moment so that you will understand the concept. So when it comes to the cost optimization in Log Analytics Workspace, I have been given certain recommendations, and these recommendations are based on the checklist. So we'll go through these recommendations because this is very important. This is our design phase that we are doing. So, but we will do that after the break. So guys, let's go ahead. I have design considerations already available in my presentation that I basically use for my customer facing, client facing meeting. So I will be sharing it from there because it's a crux instead of going through the documentation, which will provide you a lot of information, which may be overwhelming. So I will provide you to the point information. Let's first go ahead and build the environment that we need to build before today so that we can see whether we are getting the logs ingested by tomorrow, and then we will have them up and running over the weekend so that from Monday onwards, we will directly get into the operational aspects. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead. So, as I said, now in any environment, in any production environment, 80% of the data sources, and say 80% or at times 90%, 80% of the data source is what? What is the 80% of the data source in any environment, or from where you get majority of the logs?
Endpoints.
Endpoints, absolutely. And what are endpoints basically?
Desktops, laptop,
Absolutely.
servers.
Typically servers, because for desktops and laptops, you don't directly receive the data. You actually receive the data from EDR solution. So you may have Microsoft Defender for endpoint, which is part of M365 configured on endpoints. And that is that EDR, which is known as EDR solution, endpoint detection and response. You may have Semantic, McAfee, CrowdStrike configured on endpoints. And that EDR solution is collating data and then dumping that data into the workspace. Make sense? So it is not the direct ingestion of data. It is via the EDR solution. But the direct ingestion of data happens from the servers. This is where you have direct ingestion of data. And in order to directly ingest the data, what do we install on these servers? What do we install on servers to ingest the data directly from them?
Agents.
Agents, great. And whose agents are they? What kind of agent is that? Is that a log analytics agent? Is that a Sentinel agent? Or is that an Azure Monitor log agent? Which agent is this? Now we have three agents. Which agent are we talking about? Is that a Sentinel agent or LA agent? LA stands for log analytics agent, or Azure Monitor log agent. Which agent is this, guys, that we are referring here?
Azure Monitor.
Azure Monitor agent. Do we have Sentinel agent?
No.
Right, there is no Sentinel agent. So this does not exist. You will always have log analytics agent, And this log analytics agent is MMA, which stands for Microsoft Monitoring Agent. There is no log analytics agent. When you download the log analytics agent on a server, it is shown under control panel as Microsoft Monitoring Agent. When you double click on the agent, you will see options to configure both OMS as well as SCOM. Have you ever seen it says log analytics workspace? Or have you ever seen an agent, guys, how it looks like, how it shows on the server? You guys, do you have access to any machine which has an agent on it?
Agent, no, actually team, we have team, Winter team who is managing.
Okay, so you don't have access. Let me show you. Because you need to understand this differentiation, which is very important, guys. See, operations is something which is an ongoing process that will continue to change, continue to evolve over a period of time as and when new capabilities are being added or removed. Design is something that you need to understand, or core concept is something that you need to understand, because that will build your strength, that will build your base in a technology. And once you have a good strength and base built, you can answer or tackle any situation in that technology. So this is how the agent looks like. Let me show you the agent. Wait, yeah. Over here. Okay. So here's the agent, download agent. Let me show you what this agent is. So I'm down. Oh, it's already there on my system. You can see it says 1, which means I already have it over here. So I downloaded that in my previous training. So this is the agent, MMA agent. Now you can see this. This is exactly what I downloaded, or you can see when I click on download, this is the name it shows, MMA setup AMD 64, which is already here. So I'm not downloading it. I'll directly go there. And I'll directly double click on the agent. And when I double click on it, it says Microsoft Monitoring Agent. So it is basically installing a Microsoft Monitoring Agent. You can see it's not a log analytics agent. It's Microsoft Monitoring Agent. And that is where Microsoft had to simplify it, because on the portal, it says log analytics agent. Inside the agent, it says Microsoft Monitoring Agent. And when you install the agent, let's say I'm installing this agent. Now it has two options. It says connect the agent to the Azure Log Analytics, in bracket it says OMS, and it says connect the agent to the System Center Operations Manager, which means this is a common agent which is used by Microsoft System Centers Operations Manager, in short SCOM, which is an on-premises monitoring system from Microsoft, part of System Center suite. And then we also have Azure Log Analytics agent capability here. Now in bracket, it says OMS. Now, what is this OMS, guys? Can somebody tell me what OMS is? Okay, so OMS stands for Operations Management Suite. This service does not exist. Microsoft, in the initial days, I'm saying during 2018, 2019, they came up with this service. They said that let us bundle 3 or 4 critical services which is used by all the customers, and let's offer them as a bundle solution, and let's offer them as a PaaS solution. So Microsoft came up with OMS, Operations Management Suite. It had a separate portal. You go to that portal, subscribe to OMS, and using OMS, you can do the monitoring. You can do backup and disaster recovery configuration. You can do automation. So it has some capabilities. However, the service does not receive great response, and it could not attract customers. So Microsoft decided to shut it down. Microsoft discontinued the service. And later on, the capability inside the service for logging, there was one capability inside the service that was logging. For that capability, they integrated that capability into log analytics, and they came up with this log analytics name. So OMS is the old name of Azure Log Analytics, but OMS had more capabilities. So now what it says that connect this MMA agent to log analytics or to System Center Operation Manager. If I say connect this agent to System Center Operations Manager, it will ask me for my management group name, management server FQDN or management server IP address, and 5723 TCP IP is the port on which it communicates. I'll need to provide this information and hit next. After this, it will just take this information and it will try and make a connection to the management server. And if it is successful, it will be installed successfully. It will start to report to the management server. The agent will start to reflect, or this, I'm installing this on this laptop. So this laptop will start to reflect into the SCOM console. The SCOM admin just need to accept it. I'm saying just need to enable it. So this is how it works. If I want to go to log analytics, then I will click on connect. And here I need the workspace ID and key. So here's the workspace ID you can see on the portal. And here's the key also. You can use any of the key, primary or secondary. Now using this, and after I type the key, for example, I'll copy this information. And I'll type the key also. So I've typed the key and I've typed the workspace ID. If this laptop is part of an environment where they use proxy servers to route all the traffic to internet. So proxy services are like a service that will be configured in a network who will then inspect all the traffic that is destined to who will then inspect all the outbound traffic to internet. So since this agent is going to send the log data to its log analytics workspace over the internet 443, then the proxy service will come into the picture. So you can configure the proxy URL and proxy credentials so that when this traffic goes to the proxy server will look into this traffic and know that yes, this has authentication, it will allow it to pass through. So that's what the proxy is all about. So you can configure the proxy here. So proxy URL, proxy information you can configure. After you configure this, then click on next and it will install the agent. Since I've selected SCOM also, I will remove SCOM. That's it. Now it will install it. Now once this agent is installed on this laptop is an endpoint. It's a client OS. The agent will directly send log data to the log analytics workspace. What kind of data it will send to the log analytics workspace is what I will configure here under legacy agent management. Over here, I will need to configure what kind of data I would like my agent to collect from the endpoints, collect from the servers and send it and dump it here. So this is what I would configure here. Now, both the steps, the agent configuration, so you can see it's Microsoft monitoring agent. It is configured successfully. Now, where do I see it? I will see it under control panel. On my laptop or a server, you open control panel and inside the control panel, you will see this agent. Where is my agent? Okay, let's look at the small icons.
In programs and features, it will be.
No, it is shown here also. I would say it comes here itself under control panel directly. It comes here. Programs and feature it will be, I know, but it also is shown here in the Microsoft monitoring agent. Maybe they have removed it from here, but that's okay. Even if you don't see it here, typically you will see it here in the name of Microsoft monitoring agent. If you don't see it here, just go to programs, add or remove programs. So just click on large icons, sorry, category, programs, and here programs and features. Here you will see the agent, Microsoft monitoring agent. Here's the agent. I also have Azure Monitor. I'll talk about this agent later. So you also have agent here, which is here, Microsoft monitoring agent. This is the agent. You will double click on this agent. I say you will click on change. So once this agent is shown here, I'm saying you cannot click on it from here. Typically, you will see that agent over here under control panel. You double click on it and then you will just see the screen. Whenever there are agent related issues, you basically troubleshoot it from here. You will first check whether the agent is communicating with the management, with the log analytics workspace. And if the agent to workspace connection is established, it is showing as green, then you will further go to troubleshooting. So you find that information here. Probably it's not coming. I may need to, okay, it's coming here. Now, can everyone notice it is shown here now? That was nothing but the synchronization. So now when you it says does not associated because I actually deleted when I clicked on change, it deleted it. So that's okay. So agent is shown here. Now let's double click and install it once again. So I'm installing the agent once again so that I can show you.
A question about this agent. So it says it's legacy. Is there a non-legacy version of this? Is that the other agent that you're showing us soon?
Absolutely. So let's first understand this agent. Okay. So when this agent is installed, this agent will start to collect data from this endpoint, and it will send that data to log analytics workspace over port outbound to internet port 443. That's what it does. Now, when you click on the agent, you will see this window. Now on this window, you can configure these settings. So for example, operations manager, now you can also have the same agent send data to SCOP as well as log analytics, which is known as multi-homing. The same agent can send monitoring data or log data to two different solutions. That is known as multi-homing. So right now I'm not sending any data to operations manager, and I'm also not sending any data to log analytics workspace because I've not done the configuration. But if I want to do the configuration, I'll just click on add, type the workspace ID and workspace key, and it will do the configuration. So let's do this configuration once again. So it's very simple. You just copy the workspace ID and you copy the workspace key. It says connection status will be determined. So it will just take a couple of minutes and it will show you the connection status. Okay. So what you will see, there are times when you are doing the troubleshooting. Now you can see a green check. It says Microsoft Monitoring Agent has successfully connected to the Microsoft Operations Management Suite service. So Log Analytics used to be known as OMS. Now Log Analytics is getting transferred into Azure Monitor Logs. But the agent will continue to remain the same. And that is where what Microsoft said that let's also get rid of this agent. So this is my legacy agent now. This is not the agent that I will be using. The agent that I will be using is this agent. I'll show you. So this agent will be part of apps and feature. I'm saying it will not be shown under control panel. It will be shown under apps and feature. Here's the agent. And this agent is known as, hope my screen is visible to everyone. This is Azure Monitor Agent. Is this visible to everyone? Azure Monitor Agent. So going forward, instead of installing Log Analytics Agent, I will be installing Azure Monitor Agent so that my environment remains up to date from day 0. And I don't have to update it, upgrade it, migrate it to the new version next year or probably by the end of this year. So this is what you are going to do. This is what you are going to suggest to your customers going forward. is part of engineering function, that let's get rid of old legacy method of doing it. Let's do it the way we do it. Now this information, this Azure Monitor agent, this is only made available since yesterday. Until yesterday, this was the option. So what Microsoft said, that instead of using log analytics agent, customers must start to use or start to migrate to Azure Monitor agent. That's what Microsoft was saying. But this was only applicable for Azure virtual machines, the virtual machines which are there in Azure. Now the question is, what about on-premise virtual machines, physical servers? When I say virtual machines, it includes VMware, Hyper-V, Citrix, whatnot, and other cloud, other public private cloud VMs, which includes both client and server OS. What about this? I'm saying Microsoft is asking me to replace log analytics agent with Azure Monitor agent for all Azure virtual machines. But in my environment, I also have this also constitutes my infrastructure. I have a couple of on-premises VMs, physical servers, other public private cloud VMs, which includes client and server OS. What will I do? Will I continue to use LA agent? That's the first question. If yes, then for how long? When Microsoft will provide Azure Monitor agent for this infra? That's the question. So you only get the answer. You only got the answer yesterday. I'll show you. Look at the article date. Yesterday. They only published it yesterday. And now what they say, that you don't need to use log analytics agent on client machine or on premises machine anymore. You will be using Azure Monitor agent. And in this article, this will show you the process, that how do we do it. However, the process is a bit complicated because it requires you to use PowerShell. It requires you to use CLI, and I'm yet to go through the entire documentation. So I will go through this entire documentation and I will see how can I migrate, or how can I start from today using Azure Monitor agent for my on-premises virtual machines, servers, and other cloud VMs where I cannot directly install Azure Monitor agent. See, as far as it is about Azure virtual machines, it is very straightforward. You can directly install Azure Monitor agent inside the virtual machine through extension or through Insight, which is easy. You can do it from the portal. But non-Azure virtual machines, on-premises virtual machines, how will you do it? For that, you need some MSI, some installation. So that installation file is available. However, I have installed this file. That's exactly what you see here in the applications. I have installed it, but I have not seen any option to configure it. I cannot click on it and configure it directly, which means there is this option which is there. And in this option, they are giving me some, they are giving two options, two methods. If I want to do it through REST APIs or through PowerShell. So I will need to use this method, probably use PowerShell for onboarding. So I will need to run this PowerShell command on my endpoint for my Azure Monitor agent to get the instructions to connect with Azure Monitor Log Analytics and start to dump data there. So this is what I actually need to do. And once this agent or once this endpoint starts to reflect under Azure Monitor, then I will need to also instruct the agent to capture specific performance data, event data, log data. And that will be done in the data collection rule. So in the command itself, it shows the data collection rule ID. So probably you will need to modify this command parameters you will need to enter manually and run these commands. And once this is done, your agent will also start to report, Azure Monitor agent will start to report this endpoint data to Azure Monitor log analytics. So that is the process which they only made available on their website yesterday, which basically means that now we have end-to-end solution. Earlier, what Microsoft was saying that you need to replace log analytics agent with Azure Monitor agent for Azure virtual machines only. And for on-premises and other clouds, continue to use log analytics agent. But now Microsoft has given you both the options. Now Microsoft is strictly asking you or strictly recommending to use Azure Monitor agent for all the operating systems, be it Linux or Unix, and be it Azure virtual machine, non-Azure virtual machine, or premise virtual machine. So that is what we need to do. Am I making sense, guys?
Would you recommend that we, with the data collection rules, 'cause it looks like we'd have to redeploy portions of the script each time if we want to add a new data collection rule? Would you recommend that we, when we deploy that, we would have a data collection rule for, let's say, security logs and application logs, and then potentially have a blank data collection rule that's there just for the future usage?
No, so this is how you will deploy it. This article clearly says that this will get deployed on Azure AD joint device or Microsoft Windows Server AD joint device, and it will be quicker. So what will happen? You will just need to pick up the script, modify it. You will just need to provide your tenant ID, subscription ID, authentication get added, user principal name, which has access, which has Azure monitor contributor access or the specific RBAC. Modify the script, and then you can push this script through the domain controller. When you push it through the domain controller, then you will directly you can quickly install it on multiple devices, multiple endpoints at one time. That is what you can do, which is the same process. Then comes the data collection part. For data collection part, I will show you in the portal that what you need to do. In the
When
data,
you say deploy with the domain controller, you mean via Mecca or SCCM? Is that what you mean?
yeah, see, if you have SCCM, I'm saying not all organizations use SCCM. So any remote deployment solution, any application packaging solution that you use in the organization, be it SCCM or IBM solutions or any other solutions, you can just create the script, package it into an application, and then deploy it to the environment. To all the, I'm saying you can push it through the network, you can push it through Software Center. So there are multiple options. That way you will be able to deploy this to multiple systems at once. Now, once this is deployed, this agent also needs input that what data it is collecting. Because right now you're just deploying the agent. So you are just replacing your log analytics agent or MMA agent with Azure Monitor agent. But you have not yet given input to this agent that what data needs to be collected. So that information you will do it from here. So now guys, let's go ahead and create a data collection rule. So all of you, let's go ahead and let's go to Azure Monitor. Okay, so what we need to do, we will need to click on Azure Monitor, and in the Azure Monitor under settings, there's an option that says data collection rule. So let's click on data collection rule and let's create a data collection rule, all of you. And this is where you will see how do we integrate this data collection rule with the Azure Monitor agent as well as with the log analytics workspace, so that agent will take instructions from the data collection rule as to what kind of data needs to be collected, and then it will send it to the log analytics workspace. or Azure Monitor Log Analytics Workspace. So we'll select our resource group. Then we'll select the region. We'll select the devices. So let's select all. Data collection endpoint. Now data collection endpoint is optional. It says it is required for other data sources. When you have other data sources like sources that can submit data in CEF or syslog format, it will be used then. So let's leave this. So right now let's keep it none. Let's click on resource, and this is where you will add the resource. So this is where you will add the resource. Now when you deploy agents, Azure Monitor agents, those agents will also, I'm saying, when you create this data collection rule, this data collection rule will have an ID. I'm saying will have a name, and this data collection rule name will be added into the script in the Azure Monitor script that you will deploy on the endpoint, so that the endpoint will automatically connect to this data collection rule and will pick up the instructions from here. Now this is where we will pick the instructions. So first we need to add resources. This is where I can directly add my Azure virtual machines. So my Azure virtual machines can directly be added here, and it will deploy Azure Monitor agent. It says pick a set of virtual machines to collect data from. The Azure Monitor agent will be automatically installed on the VMs, scale sets, and ARC enabled servers. So it says for Windows 10 and 11 devices, download the client installer and follow the guidance. So this is the client installer which I downloaded on my laptop. So you can download the installer from here, but this installer only has the MSI that you will install. No further instruction. Instructions will be given through the PowerShell. So probably I'll do it over the weekend or test its functionality, and then next week I'll show you how it works, because this only got available from yesterday, so I have not done that yet. Okay. So
what about Windows 7, like legacy devices? Have they published any guidance on that?
It doesn't support. As for the documentation, it only supports Windows 10 and 11. So Windows 7, you will continue to use Log Analytics Workspace.
Okay, cool.
But probably, I'm saying, since they have just enabled it, I'm sure they will add, support for the legacy operating systems as well. Or they may never do that, because Microsoft is actually pushing customers towards the supported version of operating system. Windows 7 is already out of extended support. So maybe Microsoft will never come up with that, with the legacy support. So we don't know. I'm saying the future will tell us. Okay, so this is where you will select your resources. So you will click on add resources, and you will see your subscription in all the resource group. You will need to expand the resource group so that you will see your virtual machines, and the virtual machines that you want to add, you will need to select those virtual machines here. This is like you will select the virtual machines. So example, I've got Azure Monitor Law. Now this is already added. This is an anomaly here right now, which Microsoft will fix it. Typically, any virtual machine which is already added in Azure Monitor should not be shown in the data collection rule. Now, Microsoft may say that we have Microsoft may say tomorrow that one virtual machine can send logs to multiple data connection rules which are connected to individual log analytics workspace. I'll accept that statement there, that it will be equivalent to multi-homing, wherein one machine, one endpoint is sending logs to two workspaces, and those two workspaces are identical. They may have two different services connected to it. So that could be the reason. But even though this virtual machine is showing, at least Microsoft give me some prompt that this is already reporting into some workspace, so that as a user, I will not end up having redundant monitoring in place. So that is something which I personally feel Microsoft should do. So this is already reporting. That is why I'm not doing it. Okay. So let's select it. Let's click on apply. So we have selected the virtual machines. Then next is rule. This is where we will create the data collection rule, that what data needs to be collected. So I'll click on add data source. Here I'll select the source first, performance counters. Now the question is, do I want to monitor performance counters in Sentinel? Probably not. Sentinel is not an infrastructure monitoring solution. It's a security monitoring solution. So if the answer is yes, that you want to do it, just select those counters that you want to monitor, click on next, and in the destination, you will need to add destination, and this is where you will need to select your workspace. So you will select the destination as Azure Monitor Logs, and here you will select your workspace that you have created. So now this is where we are connecting the dots, that we have an agent which is synchronized with this data collection rule. That agent is given instructions that this is the type of data that you need to collect, and this is the workspace where the data needs to be dumped into. That's how we are connecting the dot. So this is the process that we will follow going forward instead of using log analytics agent at all. So we'll need to select this. Once you select this, then you will need to click on add data source. So you can see performance counters, Azure Monitor Logs. It is going into Azure Monitor Logs. Similarly, you will add another performance counter, which is once again Windows event log. Select the event log that you want to collect. I would select critical and error for the system as well as for application. And for security, I want to collect failure logs. So select this information, click on next, and once again select the same things. Destination is Azure Monitor Logs, and the workspace is Log Analytics workspace that you have created. Add this source also. Similarly for Linux, click on Linux syslog and select all of it. And in the destination that you have selected in the first data source, it will show you the same destination for the rest of them. But if you want it to go to a separate workspace, you can also select it from the dropdown. But I want it to go to the same workspace. So I've selected it here and I'll click on add data sources. So once you are done with adding all the data sources here, and once you're done with adding all the resources that you want to, where you want to install Azure Monitor agent, Azure Monitor Log agent, then you just need to click on review plus create. So this is how we will be doing. Now it says some validation failed. So what is failing is the rule name. I forgot to put the rule name. Sample rule. So you will do the validation once again. Okay, validation passed, and you will hit create now. When you hit create, it will create this data collection rule. It will deploy Azure Monitor agent on all the resources that you have selected. Under resource tab, it will enable all the parameters, all the log sources that you have selected under data sources. That's what it is going to do. And within a few minutes, you will start to see logs getting ingested into the workspace that you have selected, which is Azure Monitor Log Workspace. So that's what we will do. Now, I will not do this collection rule here because I already have a collection rule. So I will close it. This is my collection rule, Azure Monitor data collection rule for VMs. I would add those data sources here actually, those VMs. So for the performance counters, I will select the destination as Azure Monitor Logs, and I'll select the same workspace, delete it, save it. And resources, I add those VMs here now. I'll click on add, expand, expand, expand. Okay. Now this is another anomaly that I wanted to bring to your notice. In the same data collection rule, I have this VM already added. Even though it is showing me this VM, it should, at least for this data collection rule where the VM is already added, it should it should not highlight this VM. And this should be faded. I should not be able to select it. And if I try to select it, it should say that the VM is already added to the data collection rule, but it is still not doing it. So there are some anomalies. There are some misconfigurations. Azure has to, because Azure has only made these services available recently, and Azure is trying customers to migrate to these services. And at the same time, Azure is working towards rectifying and optimizing these services also. So you just need to bear with Microsoft Azure for some time. So I've selected all of them. And you can see it's created a data collection rule, successfully checked the existence of Azure Monitor agent, and it is doing the installation. It says successfully initiated the extension installation. So this is installing Azure Monitor agent on these VMs through extension. So this will be done in some time. I would say it has just initiated the installation, which will take a couple of minutes. Once that is done, I will have all my VMs reflecting here. I would rather remove this VM1. I will only keep the VMs which I need. These are the 4 VMs that I need. So Azure Monitor Law is having 2016. This is 2019. This is 2022 and 1 Ubuntu VM. So I've got 3 Windows servers of varying versions and 1 Ubuntu VM. So this is what I need, guys. All of you, please go ahead, create this data collection rule, add all your VMs that you have provisioned yesterday in the same data collection rule, and the rule must point towards the same log analytics workspace that we created this morning. That's what we need to do. Okay. Now performance, you can see here, this is nothing but the anomaly in the portal or some synchronization issue. Under data sources now performance counters are not visible, and I do not have an option to add them also. So this is nothing but an anomaly. So I will refresh my system. Probably it will come there, or it will come after some time. That's okay. Let me sign out in silo. Okay, it's still not coming. Maybe it will come up within some time once. All right. So this is what we need to do, guys. Once this is done, once you are done configuring a data collection rule, adding the resources, which is Azure virtual machines here, once you are done configuring the data sources and pointing them towards the Azure log analytics workspace, give me a moment. All right. So once we are done with this, then the next step that we need to check is, so you need to validate whether this is completed or not. For that, what we can do, we can click on logs here on the monitor blade. We can click on logs. And in the logs, we can navigate to queries. And we can run a quick query. All you need to do is type heartbeat here. Just type heartbeat and hit enter. And you will receive the heartbeat from all the virtual machines, which are basically reflecting in this log analytics. I'm saying in this Azure Monitor, workspace. So right now I'm only getting the heartbeat from this VM Azure Monitor log because this was added. This was added yesterday. In some time within next 10-15 minutes, I will start to get heartbeat from the other VMs also. That will confirm that those VMs are also added. Yes, Neelkant.
Yeah, can I share my screen?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So when I click on this logs, I'm getting something different.
When you, okay, just give me a moment. Let me see. Yep. Where exactly you are.
Yeah,
Log.
I'm in the monitor in the logs.
Yeah,
I have created the data rules just now.
you've created the data. Close that scope. Close it for a moment.
Which one?
Close it. And close this. Just go to any other option. Okay, now come back to logs. Now close this log analytics, pop-up. Now click on. Now you need to select the scope. Select the scope as subscription. Subscription and apply. So it basically asking you that where exactly, on which scope you want to run these queries. You've selected the subscription, which means that whatever query I will run, the query should run at the subscription level. That's it. Hit apply. So since you have come to this window for the first time after you created Azure Monitor service, that is why it was asking you for the, it was asking you for selecting the scope. Now that you have selected the scope, it will never ever ask you. It will remember your choice. Now type in that box where you see the cursor, type heartbeat. That's it. So when you type the first few letters, you will see it. And then don't type anything. You don't need to type any, switch there. Just type heartbeat. Go back to delete it, the second row, that pipe, delete that pipe. Now hit enter. Hit enter or hit run. Sorry, hit run. You will start. You can started receiving heartbeat from 2090, 2022 also. Ubuntu also, you've started to receive heartbeat from those servers, which means now those servers are reporting into or in other words, those servers, those virtual machines have now, on those virtual machines, Azure Monitor log agent has been successfully installed, and Azure Monitor log agent is now reporting into this log analytics workspace.
Got it.
So this is coming. Log is actually getting stored into the log analytics workspace. You can see the same information into the log analytics workspace also. You can run the same query inside the log analytics workspace, the one that you have configured in the data collection rule, and you will see the same information there also. Go to log analytics workspace. Yeah, here. And go to logs. And run the same heartbeat query here also. You will see the same information. See, the same information is coming.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, great. So this is working for you. And if it is not working for others, you just need to be patient. Just give it at least 5-10 minutes. It will start to work for all of you.
Raghu, I might have missed something. Just have an issue with the trying to create the data collection rule.
Sure.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, please do that. Okay.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see your screen. Just give me a moment. Let me maximize it. Okay, so you're creating a data collection rule. Your workspace is basically not shown here. Can you hit OK? Have you created a log analytics workspace?
Yeah, the
Can you show me that workspace first? Just discard this. Go back to the main screen and show me the workspace where you have the workspace. Okay, that's your workspace is in Australia East. All right, now go to data collection rule. You will need to go inside Azure Monitor that is visible. So data collection rule does not have its own dashboard. This is under Azure Monitor.
go to monitor.
Yep. Scroll it down. Yep.
Right.
Why are you create? Okay, so you're selecting a resource group. Okay, DXC Sentinel, good. All right, now stop here. See what region are you selecting for this data collection rule? East US, and where your workspace. That's the
Was
reason.
in the Australia, wasn't it?
Yeah. Select the same region where the workspace is, because rule and workspace has to be in the same region. Okay. Click on all. You only connecting it through Windows here. Click all. Next. Select all your resources. Yep, wait. Apply. Next. First select the destination. Yep, Azure Monitor logs. Now select the workspace. See, it is visible now.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Before you go there, delete the upper one, the first one. On the top, there are, yeah, delete this one. Great. Now click on add data source. So that was the reason it was not visible, because you were selecting location as East US for the data collection rule, and your workspace is configured in Australia.
Project. Yeah. Oh, got it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I'll do the rest.
Sure. Please do this. All right, guys. So once this data collection rule is created, and once you've configured everything, and your machines starts to reflect under the workspace, you can see the logs getting ingested into the workspace. Your first part is completed. So we are done with configuring logs of all my virtual machines in Azure to the log analytics, to the Azure Monitor log analytics workspace. My first part is done. My second part is, do I have virtual machines outside of Azure? If yes, then I will also need to deploy agent on those virtual machines so that they can also start to reflect under the log analytics workspace. So right now, let's assume you don't have virtual machines outside of Azure. However, if you want, you can add your own laptop as an endpoint into this workspace. That's what you can do. See, you may not have access to an on-premises lab, but at least you have access to this laptop, your own laptop. You can deploy agent on your own laptop and add it to the same workspace, and it will start to reflect there also. So that is how we add on-premises servers. Now, if you have So that's about the on-premises. Definitely, we will not be able to do the networking devices in this training because we don't have access. We don't have access to on-premises, but we will try and imitate as much as possible. So my first part is done. Now, as far as any resource in Azure is considered, I would like to enable logging for that resource so that it also starts to send logs to Sentinel. So let's go to your storage account. We created some storage accounts yesterday. Let's go to the storage accounts, and one by one, for all these storage accounts, let's configure the logging into the same workspace. For example, this is my first storage account. I'll navigate to the storage account. There is an option that says diagnostic settings in the storage account. I will send the diagnostic. I will create a diagnostic setting for this storage account. Now this storage account has 4 services. So I'll click on the storage account name actually to create the diagnostic setting and click on add diagnostic setting. And here I'll type the diagnostic setting name as storage account diagnostics. Copy it because you will need it again. Storage account diagnostic, and it says what you want to collect. So I'll say matrices. I want to collect all the transactions in the storage account. Transactions like whenever some data is uploaded, some data is downloaded, some data is deleted. I want to capture everything. So I will select transactions and I will send it to a log analytics workspace. Which workspace? The same workspace, which is my main workspace that is going to be integrated with Sentinel. So this is my workspace, which is going to be integrated with Sentinel. I will select my workspace and I will hit save. So this is how I will onboard all my storage accounts to Sentinel. And storage accounts are really critical because they contain data. They are my data repositories. So this is configured. I will repeat the same process for all the storage accounts that I have. And that is why in any implementation team, you will have multiple resources depending on how big the customer's environment is that needs to be added to Sentinel. So I will go to each storage account one by one, and I will add them to the same log analytics workspace. So this one is also done. Next. Same process I need to do for all these storage accounts. So all my storage accounts are now ingesting, and from this moment onward, all the matrices inside the storage account, any transaction that happens will start to get logged into the same log analytics workspace. Done. Okay.
It is showing failed for me actually.
You give a moment. Okay, what is not working? You said something has failed. Can you show me your screen? Yes, Neelkanth. So, please register the subscription with Microsoft Insights. Yogesh, are you done? Sorry, Neelkanth, are you done with the data collection rules?
Yes.
Okay, this is something strange. Click on in the search type subscriptions. Subscription, yep. Click on subscription. Resource under settings, click on resource. Resource provider. Do you see an option resource provider under settings? Resource provider. Scroll it down. You will see resource provider. Yep. Resource provider are under settings. Yep, here. Click on it. Now type Microsoft Insights. Okay, see it's already registered. The reason it is registered because when you started, if you're able to successfully create the data collection rule, it is part of Insights. So it's already registered, and that's exactly what that error message is asking you to do. It is asking you to register it, which is already registered. So all you need to do is refresh the browser, sign out and sign back in if it doesn't work. That's the only thing that you need to do. Make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. If it doesn't work, just refresh. If refresh doesn't work, sign out and sign back in, it should work because you already are registered for Microsoft Insights. The moment we do some configuration in Azure Monitor,
Okay.
Microsoft will automatically register our subscription for Microsoft Insights.
Try now.
Give it a try. I'm looking at your screen.
I'm also getting the same error.
So you also need to validate the same thing, whether you are registered for Microsoft Insights. Okay, stop there. Why are you showing archive to storage account? You don't need to archive. Only do. Why are you archiving these matrices? Only this. Yep. Save now. Okay, it is the same thing. It says please register the subscription with Microsoft Insights, which you have just validated that it is registered. So sign out and sign back in. It will probably resolve this issue.
Okay, let me try.
Yeah.
So this Azure monitoring agent is basically right now available only for the virtual machines. It is not available for servers, for on-prem servers. I'm talking
No,
about.
Yogesh, it is. That's exactly what I showed you in the article. That yesterday, yesterday they
No,
published
in the article it says not supported.
what it says not supported. Where?
Servers.
Just give me a moment.
Servers.
So Yeah, that is what I said, that I need to double check because I only saw, I was researching and I could see this article yesterday where it says it is not supported. Okay. Where exactly in the article it says
Yeah,
not
scroll down here, supported device type. On-prem servers not supported.
Okay. Virtual machines extension with Azure Arc Agent, installation method, supported, no, install the agent using Azure extension framework provided for on-premises by installing Azure Arc Agent. So what it says that, do you know Azure Arc service? There is a service with
Yes, yes, I know about it, but I was thinking of installing this agent directly on the servers, but we have to use Azure Arc for this.
Absolutely. Probably since this was only published yesterday, probably in a week or a month from now, they would start to support direct installation of agent on non-Azure virtual machines and virtual machines, which includes both server and client operating system. So right now, as long as it is not supported, you will continue to use log analytics agent on those machines. The moment they start supporting it, see, if you do it through Azure Arc, it will unnecessarily be an additional lengthy steps, administration overhead, and cost will also be involved for Azure Arc service. So if it is not, I'm saying it would be too early to start using Azure Monitor agent for non-Azure resources. Probably we can wait for some time. And when the support is available, the direct support is available, then we should do it. But if you want it to do right now, you will probably need to follow the Azure Arc method because that's what they are saying.
Yes, we are doing the POC right now for this.
Great. So let me know the results. I will be, curious to know the results because probably I will be suggesting the same to my customers also in my next meeting with them that we have a new capability on the table. Let's just explore it, do a POC around it, see its fitment, and let's implement it. So if you can share the results, that would really help me. That would really help some of my time.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. I'll share the results with you. Thank you.
Great. All right, guys. So what we have done, we have configured data collection rule, and we have added resources, Azure VMs, and data sources, which is performance counters. We have added event logs, and we have added Linux logs also. That's what we have done. We've also configured storage account diagnostic logs, which is similar to logging of storage account to the log analytics workspace, save log analytics workspace. Now my third thing, so we did configure virtual machines yesterday. We did configure storage account. We also configured the virtual network. So let's configure the same thing for virtual network also. So let's configure virtual network diagnostic logs to production storage, production log analytics workspace. So how do we do it? We'll navigate to the virtual network. So I've got a couple of virtual networks. You can see here, this is my production network. I'll select this network and I'll go to diagnostic settings. So some Azure services have the capability to send logs via agent, and some Azure services have the capability to send logs via diagnostic settings. So virtual machine has the capability to send logs via agent, and these services can use diagnostic settings also. So we'll add diagnostic settings, and here we will need to select all logs, VM protection alerts, or matrices. What are we planning to send? So matrices we don't need to send. As far as security monitoring is concerned, we don't need to send matrices. What will Sentinel do with the matrices? That this is the current ingress and egress, as you know, at this point in time, this is the total ingress and egress. Sentinel doesn't need matrices. Sentinel needs logs. So we will select all logs. And so you will need to type virtual network diagnostic logs and select the same log analytics workspace and save it. So repeat the same process for all the virtual networks that you have created. Okay, so I actually had two virtual networks, a production network, Sentinel network, that I have just configured for log analytics. Now the logs from these networks will also be sent to log analytics workspace. So this is how I am configuring my data sources. As I said, Sentinel will come later. Even if I enable Sentinel, even if I had enabled Sentinel yesterday or on the first day, it hardly makes any difference to Sentinel. Unless and until there is log, what will it do? So it needs log, and that's what we are configuring. So we have configured the logging for network, for storage account, and for virtual machines. This is what we have configured so far. So we have configured logging for virtual machines. We have configured logging for storage account. We have configured logging for virtual networks. We don't have any other service, but if you have other services configured in your environment, go ahead and configure the logging in the same manner and stream it to the same log analytics workspace. Fede, are you done with the data collection rule? Did it work?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Great. Let's do the same thing for storage accounts and virtual network also.
Yeah.
Need one volunteer because I already have it configured in my subscription. So can one person share the screen? Neelkant, can you share the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Please. Okay. So guys, what are we going to do now? Now that we have the environment configured, the bare minimum environment, or whatever we could do in the lab, in this lab lab environment, we have configured it. We have configured a couple of data sources, which is virtual machines, storage account, virtual network, and any additional that you have configured based on what you have provisioned in your lab. So we've configured the data sources, and they all are sending logs to the workspace, log analytics workspace. You have just validated by heartbeat that yes, you're receiving the logs. So you're getting the logs. Now is the time to enable Sentinel. So now is the time to configure Sentinel. Now, when I say configure, there is nothing that you configure in Sentinel. Sentinel is not like a product that you will need to deploy from scratch. Sentinel is a PaaS service, which basically means that it is pre-configured. It is already there. That service is there by Microsoft, enabled for all the subscriptions of customers, and customer would only need to feed that service with some logs, with some data. So what are we going to do? We are going to enable Sentinel service and feed it with data that we have configured so far. And then inside Sentinel, we will configure more data. And so some services have the capability to directly send the logs to Sentinel. Some services would follow a different method of ingesting logs into Workspace or to Sentinel. Right? So let's go ahead and enable Sentinel. So in the search, please type Sentinel. Now the theoretical aspects of Sentinel, I would probably be covering tomorrow because we only have half an hour left. So I will start with theoretical aspects tomorrow, the design consideration and theoretical aspects. But for now, let's enable the Sentinel service. So it says no Microsoft Sentinel to display, right? Now, what Sentinel is, you will say that's a SIEM service. Yeah, that is okay. It's a SIEM service, but Sentinel is nothing but a workspace. So when you click on create, now create Sentinel. So when you create a Sentinel instance, all it needs is a workspace. See, it says add Microsoft Sentinel to a workspace. It will populate all the workspaces that you have as we speak in this subscription, irrespective of the region. you will need to pick and choose a workspace that you want to integrate with Sentinel. Now, when you have multiple workspaces, how do you use Sentinel with those workspaces is an advanced topic that I will probably cover next week once we have a good comfort level. Once every participant has a good comfort level with Sentinel, then I'll be covering the advanced topics. But for now, you only understand the fact that Sentinel is a managed service from Microsoft, which is by default available in all the subscriptions. And you only need to create that service, which basically means you need to add Sentinel to a workspace. So that becomes Sentinel workspace. So just select the workspace that you want to add Sentinel to. That's it. You select the workspace and hit add. So you have just deployed Sentinel service. This is all about deployment. If this would have been an on-premises SIEM solution like QRadar, Splunk, Alert Logic, then it would require you to install the service on multiple servers. For example, QRadar. Now QRadar has event collector, flow collector, event processor, flow processor, and a dashboard. Those are the building blocks of QRadar. So you will need to deploy event collector and event processor, event collector and flow collector on two separate servers. Then you need one more server for the dashboard. So in total, you would need a minimum of 3 servers to deploy QRadar. Same is the case with Splunk. So if it is about an on-premises SIEM solution, it would require you to build, deploy, configure the infrastructure, and then install the tool. But since Sentinel is a managed service, all you need to do is to add Sentinel to a workspace, or basically you will need to connect a workspace to Sentinel service, and then you will start to see Sentinel portal, and you will start to see the capabilities or all the configurable options which are there in the Sentinel. So that is what we do, which means there is absolutely no additional steps to do it. You just need to identify the workspace that needs to be integrated with Sentinel. Now, why are we integrating this workspace, production log analytics workspace? Because this is the workspace where most of the resources or all of my resources are sending logs to. So all my virtual machines are sending logs to this workspace via data collection rule. All my storage accounts and virtual networks are sending logs to this workspace via diagnostic logs. So that is why I selected this workspace for Sentinel. It says it has failed. Okay, now it says the gateway did not receive a response, which means there is some connectivity issue. Probably you want to do it again. So when you are enabling the service, you are sending instructions, API instruction from this portal to Azure backend that please enable Sentinel service for this workspace. And since now it is enabled. Okay. So now the Sentinel is enabled, and the moment it is enabled, you will see the Sentinel dashboard. Now this is the Sentinel window. This is the Sentinel blade, and it says Microsoft Sentinel free trial activated. Since this is a sponsorship pass subscription, Sentinel free trial has been activated, which means that for next 30 days, you are not paying even a single penny for Sentinel. For Sentinel service, for the analysis or for the outcome that this service provides, which is till 20th of August, you're not paying anything. Post 20th of August, what you will be paying, click on settings. Under configuration at the bottom, you will have settings option. Post 30 days, this is what you will be paying. You will be paying pay as you go. Right now, you can see right now your tier is pay as you go. So you will be paying the pay as you go charges. Now, what will be those charges for pay as you go? Those charges, you can find it from Azure pricing calculator, that what are the charges for pay as you go. Sentinel pay as you go or log analytics pay as you go, you can find that information. So right now you are not paying anything, but in a production environment, there are two types of charges that you pay. If you enable Sentinel for a workspace, you will directly pay the Sentinel pricing, which includes the workspace pricing as well. And this is exactly what you see. So it says 100 GB per day, which is around 23,000 rupees. This includes both Sentinel as well as workspace pricing. So this is what you will pay post 30 days. Right now, for next 30 days, you will not pay even a single penny, irrespective of the log ingestion volume, whether you ingest 100 GB or 1 terabyte per day, Sentinel will not cost you even a single penny. Make sense? Okay. So now that my Sentinel service is enabled, after the Sentinel service is enabled, I will continue with the same process of configuring my data sources. So far, I have configured some Azure resources, which includes my virtual machines, which includes my uh, storage accounts and virtual network. But I still have some additional data sources that I want to ingest logs into Workspace for Sentinel to analyze. So what are those additional data sources? My first, most and critical data source is activity log. So can you type activity log in the search window? Not here, in the main search window. Okay. So when you type activity log, you will notice that now activity log is also shown under monitor portal, monitor service blade. Earlier, I would say a couple of months ago, there used to be a separate blade for activity log. Now, what are these activity log? These activity log comprises events or activities that are happening in this subscription. So right now you are the only person logged in. So you will see all the events initiated by your name. Majority of those events will be initiated by your name because you're the only person logging in. But imagine an Azure subscription that thousands of users have access to in a production environment, and they all are doing certain activities. Every activity results in an event, and that event is logged into Azure. This is logged for next 90 days. For 90 days, it will remain here. Nobody has the capability to delete the activity log. Even the subscription owner account admin, you are the account admin, Neelkant. Can you try and delete any log? Do you have an option to delete it? No, you cannot delete it. Nobody can delete the logs. Even the account admin cannot delete the logs. Only Microsoft can delete the logs. So activity log is one source of information that gives me a lot of intelligence. If there is any security incident, it will be recorded into the activity log. Probably it will be recorded there. For example, somebody tries to log in by providing incorrect passwords. It will be recorded into the Active Directory sign-in logs, and that sign-in logs will be ingested into the activity log. So any activity related to my Azure subscription is logged into the activity log. And that is why activity log is very important to be ingested into Sentinel for analysis. And Sentinel has the capability to filter the activity logs for any administrative log which results in an anomaly or which results in a failure or which probably leads towards intrusion. Sentinel can do that. It has that intelligence inbuilt by its programmers. So what we are going to do, this is my next data source that I am ingesting into Sentinel, or I'm ingesting into Log Analytics Workspace. Why did I not do that earlier before enabling Sentinel? Because if I had done that earlier, then it would have taken a couple of hours for Sentinel to accept it. And this is, I'm telling you by experience, it happens. There is no answer to it, but it happens. But if you enable Sentinel and then configure the activity log, it is quicker. It starts to quickly show in Sentinel. Okay. Now let's configure the activity log. So let's click on export activity logs. No, not there. On the top, that's where Microsoft is playing tricks with customers. So it changes the options. See, it is the same diagnostic settings, and you were basically trying to look to your left under diagnostic settings. You will not find it there. So this is where Microsoft is playing with the customers. Okay, you will need to configure the diagnostic settings here and use the same log analytics workspace. So we are exporting all the activity logs to a log analytics workspace which is connected to Sentinel service. Now, what kind of activities you want to export? This is where you will need to decide. So typically, I want to export my security events, my alerts, security events and alerts. These are the activities that I want to export. Now, why do I not want to export the others? Because others are more of a monitoring information, and I am doing it for the security monitoring. So for a security monitoring, I need to know all my security related activities and my alerts. If you want Sentinel to also act as a monitoring solution and to give you prompt when a specific service has any issue, then you can also include service health and resource health. The third one and the last one. That Sentinel will also tell you whenever there are issues with a service. But if you want Sentinel to only act as a security monitoring solution, all you need is security and alert. That's it. So just save it. Okay, one more thing that you want to enable is administrative. Enable administrative. I'll show you a use case actually. Yeah. So administrative, security and alert, and rest, it is totally up to you if you want to enable. But those are the bare minimum. Okay. So we have just configured activity logs for the log analytics, activity logs to be ingested into a log analytics workspace, which is connected to the Sentinel. Is everyone done with it? So that was my first ingestion that I'm doing. Okay. Second, give me a moment. Okay, we are done with the first one. Let's go back to the Sentinel dashboard. Once this is done, refresh your screen at least once, then go back to Sentinel. Refresh your screen. Okay, now open Sentinel. And you can see Sentinel is nothing but a log analytics workspace. So in other words, you can also say that Sentinel is a log service which has the capability to query logs, identify vulnerabilities, misconfiguration, anomalies, and then prompt user or inform user about it. Okay, great. Now, if you see carefully, it under data connectors in the middle of the screen, it says one connector. We have not added any connector, but it says one connector. So let's click on data connectors under configuration. Under configuration, yep, you will have an option data connector and see what that data connector is that is showing one connector. What that connector is? Syslog. Now you will also see activity log connector coming here soon. Now this connector is part of the data collection rule that you have enabled, right? You have enabled the Linux syslog part. That is why it is coming. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
okay. Now you will see activity log here also. Okay. Another update in Sentinel, which Microsoft has done. When you click on data connectors, if you remember, I'm saying people who have been working with Sentinel for a long time or for the last couple of months, if you remember when you would go to data connectors, it would show you all the data connectors. Now it does not show any data connector. It is only showing the data connector which is connected. Yes, no, maybe. Yogesh, did you notice this?
Yeah, now they are available in Content Hub. They have removed from here.
Okay. So what Microsoft is doing, Microsoft is trying to optimize or simplify the service. And Microsoft, what they have done, instead of showing you individual connectors and then analytics rules, then the workbooks which are available, then the alert rules which are available. I would say a connector comprises of workbooks, queries, analytics rule, and whatnot, and some additional capability. What Microsoft is doing to simplify it for people who will learn Sentinel, probably today or in future, Microsoft has added everything inside the Content Hub. So can you click on Content Hub under Content Management, Neelkanth? Okay, this is the place. This is where Microsoft has made everything available. And now this is known as solutions. So this is known as solutions. Solution is a capability that is provided by Sentinel, which includes connector, analytics rule, alert rule, and whatnot. However, if you want to see only the connectors here, that I only want to see the connectors, then you can apply a filter on the content type. Click on content type. There is a filter above. Yeah, content type above there. Yep. Right next to status, there is a filter content type. No. Yep, this filter. And in this content type, only select the data connectors. So all your data connectors, they are here now. These are all the data connectors that you have. Right now, you're just selecting the data connectors. These are all the data. So consider that they have moved all the data connectors from data connector view to here. And in the data connector view, you will only see a connector which is connected. And all the non-connected connectors, data connectors are here. Now the question is, from my participants who have not worked with Sentinel in the past, or who are just learning Sentinel in this training, that what is a data connector? So in simple words, data connector is nothing but a method of ingesting logs into Sentinel, or ingesting logs into the workplace, which is attached to the Sentinel. This is like an automated solution. Instead of manually configuring, for example, we have just configured the virtual machine logging using data collection rule. We have just configured the storage account and virtual network logging using diagnostic settings. What if I want to configure the logs from services like Azure Active Directory, services like Microsoft 365, services like Microsoft Defender for Cloud, services like Firewall? If I want to get logs from those services, if I want to configure logs from those services, what will I do? Do I navigate to that service, click on diagnostic logs, and follow the same process? Or there is a simple method available? Yes, there is a simple method available in the name of data connectors. So they are automated connectors which you can use to ingest logs from those services, and they are managed by Microsoft. When we started 3-4 years ago with Sentinel, we used to have some 20-30 connectors to begin with. Today we have 250 plus connectors available, and it will continue to increase. Microsoft will continue to add more capabilities. Now, as far as Azure resources are concerned, you can still use manual method of ingesting logs to Workspace or Sentinel service, because you will find it in the portal. But what about third-party services where you don't have similar view, similar UI? For example, let's say you want to ingest logs from your Cisco firewall, Cisco ASA firewall, which is configured on premises, or which is configured as a network virtual appliance in Azure. How will you ingest the logs? You may not have diagnostic settings option there. So for that, you will use a data connector. Life is made simple by Microsoft. You may have a data connector available. You can use that data connector to directly configure the logging to Log Analytics Workspace or Sentinel Workspace. Neelkanth, can you check if we have a connector for Cisco in the search? Okay, see, we have multiple connectors, and here's the connector that I was talking about, Cisco ASA. ASA is the firewall. You also have connector for Cisco Meraki. Meraki is a virtual appliance from Cisco, which has both firewall as well as VPN capability. So we have a couple of connectors available from Cisco. So connectors are utilities through which you will connect a service to Sentinel Workspace. That's what connector is all about. Is everyone with me on this? Okay. Now, obviously, we are not doing Cisco because we don't have access to Cisco, but we will do what we have access to. And process will remain the same. The only thing that will change is the configuration options. So we will see whatever we have access to, we will enable it. So the first thing that we are going to enable is activity log. Now, even if you don't enable activity log, what will happen in some time, you will see activity log connector already connected. So can you refresh the screen and see if it is happening? It typically takes 10 minutes and it works. Okay. Now go to connectors once again, data connectors. Data connectors under configuration. Okay, it will take time. So automatically, basically what happens after some time, this will automatically start to reflect, activity log will automatically start to reflect here. If it is not reflecting in some time, then what you can do, let's go to Content Hub now and let's enable some connectors. And this is what all of you need to do. Why I'm not doing it on my screen? Because I've already tested it. So let's search for so we have Microsoft Defender for Cloud configured, Neelkant, right, in your account? Neelkant, did you configure Microsoft Defender for Cloud? So somebody who's sharing.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Let's create a connection with Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Let's ingest all the logs from Microsoft Defender for Cloud to Sentinel. So let's type Defender. And you see it the second place, not the 365, because we don't have 365 with us. Second one, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So let's install now. Now, before you click on install, let's see what this solution has. So this solution has one analytics rule, one connector. This is what this solution has, Defender for Cloud. There is one analytics rule that you will configure, and there is one connector which is part of this solution. So let's install the solution. This is how the things have changed. We will install the solution and then we will configure the data connector. And while you are installing one solution, do not try and install the other solution. Otherwise, it will interrupt the process and both the solutions will not get installed. So you will need to be patient. The another thing that you need to remember, this is one-time activity. You only do it once. And this is the pre-operations, I mean, say pre-handover to operations activity. This comes into the implementation, implementation, side. So this happens in the implementation phase when you are implementing so we are done with the design phase, we are done with the architecture discussions. Now we are into the implementation discussion, wherein we have identified in the design discussion phase that these are the log sources that we need to enable, and we are enabling them one after another. So we have installed Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Now, when you have installed a solution, and when you click on that solution, instead of install, you will get a manage option. So you will need to click on manage option now. And select the solution and click on manage. Now, when you click on manage, click manage now. Okay, when you click on manage, then you will see all those configurations which can be done by yourself, all those configurations which are pending. Okay, now you can see here, since this solution contained one analytics rule and one data connector, both are shown here. So you can see here the analytics rule is there and the connector is also there. So let's install the connector. Now we will need to install the connector. So select the connector, which is Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Yep. And now hit open connector page. First of all, you can see the status which is showing as disconnected. To your right under to your left under Microsoft Defender for Cloud, the status shows as not connected. So we will need to connect it. Okay. Now, in order to connect the Defender, there are some prerequisites. For every connector, there will be a prerequisite. Now, for this connector, the prerequisite is that you should have read and write permission on the workspace. Definitely Neelkant has, because he's the account admin. He has the owner access. So he has. Second, the standard tier is no longer required. For this connector, until some time, I'm saying a couple of months ago, you will only be able to enable this connector when you have a paid plan from Defender, which is the standard plan. But now this connector is also available for basic plan. Basic plan basically means wherein you have just enabled the Microsoft Cloud Security Framework compliance, and you have not enabled any standard plan which includes servers, which includes storage databases of Defender. And the third is you need contributor permission on the subscription. Now, how do you enable it? Very simple. You just need to, in the middle of the window at the bottom, you need to select the subscription, check the subscription box, and drag that radio button to the right. That's it. No, it went to the left once again. Okay. It is going to the left again and again. There's a reason for it. Some connect, just hit connect. You see that connect option there? Right above, there is an option that says connect. No, not here, not here. I'm saying where you have check the box Azure Pass subscription. On the, yeah, above, yeah, hit connect. Absolutely, connect here. Now see, it says only the subscription that you have permission will be connected. So now it is connecting it. And sometimes because of synchronization, you do something and it doesn't work. Don't feel bad about it. Just leave it, give it some time, it works. I have done that a number of times and I know that sometimes it works quickly, sometimes it takes time and it will work. Okay. If it doesn't work, after doing this, if first of all, let's click on enable all. I want to see what all plans you have enabled in Defender. Okay, so you have all the plans enabled. Great. Go back to the previous screen. Okay. Now refresh your portal. Refresh once again. You see, this is synchronization. Type portal.azure.com once again in the browser.
What I should do now?
No. In the search, in the address bar, remove everything there. In the address bar, browser address bar, not the search bar. Remove everything. Delete. Now type portal.azure.com. This is equivalent to login again.
Okay. Portal what?
Portal.azure.com, which is the login URL for Azure portal. That's it. Now go to the Sentinel once again. Okay, go back to the connector, data connectors. Okay, see, it's showing now. And another thing that you have noticed, Neelkant and everyone, Azure activity is also showing as connected. But we never ever enabled this connector. We have only enabled the log ingestion from activity log to the workspace, which is connected to the Sentinel. So this is all by experience. I was telling you that you just need to wait. It works automatically. You have never ever enabled that connector. But if you enable the connector first from Sentinel and then go ahead and enable the log ingestion, it will take a couple of hours to reflect. So that is why we first enabled the connector. We enabled the diagnostic settings for Azure Activity Log to the workspace, and we never had to enable the connector. So you don't need to enable the connector. You can directly ingest the logs to the workspace and it will automatically show as connected. So now you can see your Microsoft Defender is reflecting here that connector, but it is not showing as connected. It is not showing as connected. There is one reason for it, which I can see, which is that you are logged in as account admin. And in order to do Sentinel configuration or typically any security service configuration, you should not be using account admin credentials. You should be using an identity which has contributor access or owner access on the subscription. So that is why your Defender is not working. And same is the case for Active Directory also. Okay, so what you can do, Dilkar, you created, go back to the Defender connector, go to Content Hub, and look for Defender, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Yep, select it, click on Manage. Okay, and click on the connector, select the connector. Okay, it still says disconnected. Click on Open Connector page. Okay, so it is clear. So what you will need to do, we'll come back to this page, but you will need to sign in using another user from your directory who has contributor access to the subscription, and it will work. I've done that a number of times, and this is how it works. Because it says subscription contributor permission to the subscription of your Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So your ID is an account admin, and Microsoft doesn't recommend you to use account admin ID to do any security configuration.
So I have created two users, which will be kind of engineering tasks. So should I use them?
Yep, absolutely. Sign out. Next. Yep. Switch directory. Yep, those three. My permissions. Wait. This has contributor. Great. Okay. Now go to Defender for Cloud. It should work. Manage. Okay, open connector page. Now it should work. Select the subscription, connect. And done. It is connected. You can see it is not, the status is not moving to not connected. Just refresh the page. You will see it there. It's connected. You can go to connector. Now you will see it connected. Don't worry. Data connectors under configuration. See, it's connected now. 3 connectors. So this all comes by experience. Since I'm saying there are people who have already spent number of hours figuring out why a specific solution is not working when they have the right level of permission, when they are doing the right things, and they finally found the solution and they documented it as outcome. That is what I was telling you. So I tried it. I'm saying there in the past, we were doing this configuration for a customer from I'm saying in April, and we were just not able to understand why it is not showing as connected, because we were just following the instructions, prerequisites, which says that you should have this level of permission, this level of permission. And then we realized, okay, let's try this. And then we switched the account and used an account with contributor access, and it worked well. The next moment it worked well, and we noted it down into our notebook, which is our observation or outcome notebook after any project, which is our learning notebook. So this was part of learning outcome, that if something doesn't work, switch the account, use an identity, use a cloud only identity with contributor access, and it will work. Or to be on safer side, always use a cloud only identity, cloud only account with contributor access to configure the Sentinel. Most of the things will work in the first instance. But if you use an on-premises identity, if you use an account admin credential, then most of the things will not work in the very first instance, but they will also work, but it will take time. They will unnecessarily give you headache, and then they will work at the end. And you will never know what you did to make it work, because you actually did nothing. You were just trying. So it worked. So write it down that if anything doesn't work in Sentinel, all you need to do is switch the identity, use a cloud only identity with contributor access, and most of the things will work in the very first go. So this is another learning, another best practice for my engineering team. Next. So we are good with Azure Activity, we are good with Defender, we are good for, let's do Azure Active Directory. So that is my, okay, so guys, if you are ready to spend another 15 minutes, we can do Azure Active Directory today. Otherwise, we will resume the session tomorrow. First thing in the morning, we will start with configuring more connectors.
Yeah, some of us have meetings to go to.
Okay, no worries.
Yes, we can
I-
connect tomorrow.
No worries. I want everyone to be there when we do Azure Active Directory because there is some specific configuration that you need to be aware of. So no worries, guys. So what are we going to do tomorrow? What is my agenda for tomorrow? So tomorrow we will complete the connectors part. We will deploy some additional connectors that we will use in this training the entire next week. So we'll complete the connector part tomorrow.